Xing, have you lost your mind? An angry shout exploded right next to my ear, leaving my head spinning. Those 100 starting gold coins are your lifeline. And you actually gave them to Shinwei? Do you have a death wish? I opened my eyes groggily, and the first thing I saw was a face that was both familiar and strange. Old Gu. I called out instinctively, then froze. Why do you look so young? The Guing in front of me was my best friend from high school. But the version I remembered was a slick, middle-aged guy pushing 40 with a beer belly. How could he turn into this lean, good-looking high schooler? Young my ass. Cut the crap. Guing was in no mood to joke around. He pressed both hands down hard on my shoulders, his eyes full of panic. Xing, listen to me. Those 100 Lord's gold coins are the starting funds the Myriad Worlds battlefield gave you. As long as you don't sign the contract, no one can take them. I don't care what that woman Shinwei told you. It's not too late to take it back. Myriad Worlds battlefield? Lord's gold coins? Those words slammed into my head like hammers. I looked around. The yellowed walls, the desks piled high with books, the familiar sports field outside the window. This was clearly my old high school classroom. Before I could sort out my thoughts, a massive flood of memories surged into my mind, almost drowning me. I had been reborn. Reborn into a parallel world where extraordinary powers existed. Here, anyone who turned 18 would enter the Myriad Worlds battlefield and awaken a class. And I was that one in a million, the chosen one who had awakened the rarest class of all, the Lord. Xing, say something, damn it. Seeing me stunned and motionless, Guing grew even more frantic. He shook me hard. I know the troops and talent you rolled are garbage, but you're still a lord. Without those 100 gold coins, you won't survive the beginner phase. You could die. Don't you get it? His words struck like a thunderbolt, splitting open my scrambled memories. I snapped out of it. Looking at his eyes, red with worry, an overwhelming sense of helplessness washed over me. I opened my mouth, my voice as dry as sandpaper. Old Gu, it's already too late. The gold coins. I already gave them to her. What? Gu Ying's voice shot up as he stared at me in disbelief. You signed a Myriad Worlds contract with her? I nodded with difficulty, a bitter taste filling my throat. Yes, I remembered now. I remembered everything. After awakening the Lord class, I turned down every company that wanted to work with me. All because of the girl I adored, Shinwei. She told me she would stand by my side and help me realize my dream of conquering the Myriad Worlds. She understood me so well, supported me so completely. When I painted pictures of the future, those big, watery eyes of hers were always full of admiration, as if I were the only hero in her life. I fell for it, willingly. Until this morning, when I drew my exclusive troop type. The farmer. No combat power at all. Only good for building infrastructure. Paired with my lord's aura talent, which only boosted combat power by a percentage, it was an absolute joke. My troops had a combat power of 0.1. Doubled, that was still only 0.2. They couldn't even beat the wild monsters outside my territory. I became what people called the most useless lord in history. And in that very moment, my dream of being a hero shattered. And so did Shinwei's tenderness. She finally bared her fangs. Using her last bit of sweetness, she claimed she wanted to keep them safe for me and trick me out of all 100 of my starting gold coins, along with a mysterious stone of glory that came out of my beginner's pack. She squeezed the last drop of value out of me and cut off every path I had left to survive. The old me probably thought he had done right by his love. But now, the reborn me was facing the worst possible troops, a talent that was as good as nothing, and starting funds that had already been stolen. A hell of an opening. Old Gu fell silent. He clenched his fists so hard the veins bulged on the backs of his hands, and forced a few words through his teeth. That woman, Shinwei, she really deserves to die. I understood his anger, and I understood how he felt. At the height of my glory, Shinwei descended like an angel. The moment I hit rock bottom, she pulled away without mercy and took everything with her. That kind of betrayal was enough to make anyone still clinging to illusions give up completely and let themselves fall apart. But I wasn't the old me anymore. It's fine, I'm okay. I patted old Gu on the shoulder. My tone was so calm it surprised even me. A farmer opening. With or without those 100 gold coins, it doesn't make much difference. Since I awakened the Lord class, I never planned to die in there so easily. Old Gu looked up at me, his expression complicated. He wanted to say something, but in the end he just managed a smile that looked worse than crying. The entrance to the Myriad Worlds battlefield is about to open. Let's go. We walked side by side toward the school's teleportation plaza, which was already packed with people. My arrival was like a stone tossed into a calm lake, instantly sending out ripples. That's Xing? The most useless lord in history? He actually had the nerve to show up? What else can he do? It's a forced draft. Go in late and you die faster. TSK TSK. 1 foot in heaven, 1 foot in hell. I heard even his girlfriend dumped him. So pathetic. Pathetic? If he hadn't gotten lucky and awakened the Lord class, would a goddess like Shunwei ever have looked at him? Now that he's useless, isn't it normal for her to break it off? You've got a point, but that's cold. Better to be cold than to be a dead man's girlfriend. The chatter buzzed around me like flies. Sympathy, pity, and mostly gloating. I ignored all of it, my eyes fixed on the spatial vortex ahead. That was my battlefield. Just then, a familiar figure stepped into my path. It was Shinwei. You've got some nerve showing up here. Guing instantly bristled, shielding me behind him like a lioness protecting her cub, glaring at her. Shinwei didn't even glance at old Gu. Those eyes I had once drowned in now held nothing but cold indifference. She spoke softly, but her words were for me. Qin Xing, why are you still coming to find me? I almost laughed at the question. The person who tricked me out of everything I owned and squeezed out my last bit of worth was now turning it around and asking why I came looking for her. How did she have the face to say that? Looking at her still pure and beautiful face, I felt no anger, only a physical wave of disgust. Qin Xing, sweetie. Seeing that I wouldn't speak, she started performing on her own, her eyes so sincere you'd think I was the heartless one. I know I've disappointed you, but I want you to understand, I would never hurt you. I took your gold coins to save you. I used them to make a deal with the Tianhong group, so their A-rank troop lord, Zhao Changpeng, would protect you inside the myriad world's battlefield. She paused, as if waiting for me to break down in gratitude. Seeing me expressionless, with even a faint trace of mockery at the corner of my mouth, her face stiffened for a moment. Then she pulled a rolled parchment scroll from her coat. But Zhao Changpeng has one condition. You have to sign this subsidiary contract. Heh. I took the so-called contract, gave it one glance, and couldn't help but scoff. All resources and troops within the territory, including the Lord's own life, shall belong to the primary contracting party. Zhao Changpeng. This wasn't a subsidiary contract. This was a deed of servitude. A slave contract. A contract designed to squeeze every last scrap of marrow out of my bones. I looked up at Shun Wei as if seeing her for the first time. Such a generous contract. I wouldn't dare sign it. I handed the contract back to her. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, added with a smile. Oh right, those 100 gold coins? Consider them my breakup gift to you. After all, I'm not the kind of guy who takes something for nothing. You? Shinwei's face flushed red in an instant. But she recovered quickly, putting on a look of deep heartache. Qin Xing, don't be stubborn. This is your only chance to survive. Just sign it. And once we come back from the myriad world's battlefield, I'll leave the Tianhong group and stay by your side with all my heart. How about it? Empty promises? Even now, she still took me for a fool? No thanks. I waved my hand in disgust. Honestly, the way you are now makes me physically sick. Take your contract and get lost before I can't hold it in and throw up all over you. Qin Xing, do you really have to be this stubborn? Shinwei finally tore off her gentle mask, her voice turning cold. She took a deep breath, as if issuing a final ultimatum. The Tianhong group never takes back what it gives out. Since you don't want to sign it, then tear it up. But take my advice. Don't regret it. No need for your concern. I couldn't be bothered to waste any more words on her. Right in front of her, with a sharp rip, I tore that slave contract to shreds. The instant the pieces fell, something strange happened. The scraps turned into a soft golden light, gathering in the air to form a line of eerie words. Blessing of the myriad world's battlefield. The golden light flashed, sank into my back, and vanished. Shinwei watched all of this, a flicker of pity and relief crossing her eyes. She thought I hadn't noticed, but the reborn me had perception far beyond an ordinary person. A blessing? How ironic. I understood in an instant. This contract had been a trap from the very start. Whether I signed it or not, the result was the same. Sign it, and I became a slave. Don't sign it, and this so-called blessing was probably a death sentence. The Tianhong group. What a vicious move. They didn't just want me dead. They wanted to make absolutely sure I died. I didn't look back. I grabbed the still dazed old Gu and walked straight toward that enormous spatial vortex. That woman. She went too far. She's trying to kill you. Old Gu finally caught on, trembling with rage. I know. My voice was terrifyingly calm. I don't have the power to deal with her right now, let alone stand against the Tianhong group. Anything more I say is just helpless rage. I paused, turned my head, looked at old Gu, and said each word slowly and deliberately. When I have real strength, I'll scatter their ashes to the wind. Old Gu was stunned by the coldness and resolve in my eyes. He opened his mouth, but in the end, he just clapped me hard on the shoulder. In the myriad world's battlefield, be careful with everything. Come back alive. I gave him a smile, then stepped resolutely into that deep, spinning vortex. In the last moment before my body was wrapped up in the power of space, I waved back at him, standing by the entrance. See you in the myriad world's battlefield. Shinwei, Tianhong Group, just you wait. This game is only just beginning. The instant I passed through the spatial vortex, the world spun around me. When I came to again, I was already standing on an endless grassland. Congratulations on entering the myriad world's battlefield. Your territory has been automatically created. Congratulations on receiving the blessing of the myriad world's battlefield. The transfer contract has taken effect. Your 100 gold coins have been deducted. The cold system prompts echoed in my mind. I paid no attention to that so-called blessing. My eyes locked directly onto the only structure in front of me. A rundown wooden shack that looked like it could fall apart at any moment. Lord's Hall. Level 1. Apprentice Lord. Exclusive troop. Farmer. Current population. 51 out of 100. Unlockable buildings. Farmhouse. Warehouse. Resources. 0 wood, 0 stone, 0 gold. Upgrade requirements. 100 wood, 100 stone, 100 gold. Level 1 warehouse. Beginner protection. 47 hours, 59 minutes. Looking at that completely empty resource panel, I let out a bitter laugh. A hell opening. The name fit. Greetings, my lord. Just then, a group of farmers holding lumber axes and mining picks gathered around me, bowing respectfully. 50 of them, no less. In the myriad world's battlefield, the stronger your starting troops, the fewer you get. Top-tier troops like dragons and titans, you'd only get a single cub in the early stage. And me? I got 50 farmers right off the bat. It was practically screaming at me. Your troops are the absolute bottom of the barrel. I casually pulled up the stat panel of one farmer. Unit, farmer. Level 1. Strength, 2. Constitution, 1. Agility, 1. Talent, resource mastery. Efficiency increased by 50% when gathering basic resources. My heart went completely cold. In the myriad world's battlefield, even the weakest wild monsters had average stats above 10. My farmers? Their highest stat was a pitiful 2, and their talent was for logistics. These weren't troops. These were 50 mouths crying to be fed. In a fight, it wasn't even clear who'd be protecting whom. I took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. There was no way back now. If their combat power was weak, I'd use them as support. I'd take the field myself. Even if a few farmers had to die, I'd grind that level up. I opened my own stat panel. This was my last card to play. Xing Human Race. Level 1. 0 out of 100. Class, Lord. Strength, 5. Agility, 4. Constitution, 5. Talent, Master of Auras. Average stats of 5. Stronger than the farmers, but still half of what the wild monsters had. Still, with the fighting skills I'd trained in my past life, plus the boost from my talent aura, maybe I could put up a fight? Wait, my eyes locked onto that talent line. Master of Auras? I remembered it clearly. The talent I awakened was Lord's Aura. How did it become Master of Auras? With a trace of trembling excitement, I opened the talent details. Master of Auras. Unique, mutated talent. Effect 1. With each level gained, you obtain 1 aura skill of random quality. Every 10 levels, you're guaranteed a rare or higher quality aura. Effect 2. All aura skill effects increased 100 times. Note, a mutation caused by unknown influences. Cannot be examined, cannot be replicated. Current aura. Command aura, level 1. Command aura, level 1. All friendly units gain a 10 times boost to strength. Boom. My mind went blank, my heart pounding so hard it nearly leaped out of my chest. 100-fold effect. The original Lord's aura at level 1 boosted attack power by 10%. Now, it had become a straight 10 times boost to strength. This wasn't a cheat anymore. This was a miracle. Was it a perk from being reborn? Or was that stone of glory Shun Wei tricked out of me behind all this? It didn't matter anymore. I forced down the wild joy in my heart and raised my hand, almost trembling, sweeping it out toward the 50 farmers in front of me. A low hum filled the air. Waves of visible gray auras spread out with me at the center, landing precisely beneath each farmer's feet. I immediately pulled up the stat panel of the farmer closest to me. Unit, farmer, unnamed. Level 1. Strength, 22. That's 2 plus 20. Constitution, 1. Agility, 1. 22 strength. Sure, their constitution and agility were still paper thin, but that terrifying strength stat was already enough to split an ordinary wild monster's skull with a single axe swing. You. From now on, your name is Farmer One. I pointed at the farmer and asked, feigning composure, "Does your body feel any different?" The newly named farmer broke into an ecstatic grin. He swung the lumber axe in his hand, cutting through the air with a whoosh, and answered eagerly, "Reporting to my lord. I feel full of power, stronger than ever before." Good. No side effects. I didn't hesitate. I cast the aura on myself too. An explosive surge of power instantly filled every limb and every inch of me. My original strength of 5, under the tenfold boost, shot straight up to 55. I clenched my fist, feeling the power surging inside me, unable to keep the corners of my mouth from lifting. Shinwei, Tianhong Group, you never saw this coming, did you? You schemed so hard to grind me into the dirt, but instead you handed me the stairway to the heavens with your own hands. I looked toward the shadowy forest beyond my territory, the killing intent in my eyes no longer possible to hide. Beginner protection period? I don't need it. Power has to be tested through battle. My gaze passed through the invisible barrier of my territory and landed on a few wild monsters roaming outside. They were savage wolves, each the size of a calf. Because of the beginner protection mechanism, they treated my territory as if it didn't exist, as if we were on 2 different planes. But now, I didn't want to wait. From the 50 farmers, I picked 10 at random, including the one I'd just named Farmer One. Go. Kill that one that's on its own. I pointed at a savage wolf pawing at the dirt in the distance and gave a simple command. At my order, the 10 farmers shouldered their lumber axes and stepped beyond the boundary of the territory. The instant they crossed the barrier, that savage wolf jerked its head up, its blood-red beast eyes instantly locking onto the group of intruders. In its eyes, these 10 scrawny humans were dinner delivered right to its door. A roar tore out. The savage wolf's limbs coiled, and its massive body exploded with a speed that didn't match its size at all, lunging like a bolt of black lightning straight at Farmer One in the front. Facing this ferocious pounce, there wasn't a shred of fear on Farmer One's face. Under the 22 strength granted by the command aura, he showed a calm completely at odds with his farmer status. At the very moment the savage wolf opened its bloody maw, about to sink its teeth into his neck, Farmer One moved. The lumber axe in his hands came down with a howling whoosh. No fancy technique at all. Just the simplest, purest overhead cleave. Maybe it was his first battle and he lacked experience, because the axe that should have split the wolf's head straight a bit and slammed hard into the side of its face and its ear. A dull, bone-grating crunch. The savage wolf let out an ear-splitting howl of agony. Its huge head was smashed badly out of shape by that single blow, half its face a bloody pulp. The terrifying force even threw its massive body off balance, sending it flying like a torn sack, tumbling across the grass several times. That sudden, crushing blow shattered its ferocity completely. The savage wolf struggled back to its feet, its eyes full of terror and confusion. It couldn't understand how this seemingly weak human could have such horrifying power. Its survival instinct made it tuck its tail and turn to flee. But it was out of chances. The other 9 farmers had already quietly completed the encirclement. At the very instant the wolf got up and turned, another lumber axe gleaming with cold light was already primed, striking precisely into the side of its neck. A sharp crack. This time, not the slightest resistance. The fragile neck, before that absolute strength, was sliced open like tofu. The huge wolf head shot into the air, trailing a spray of scalding blood, and rolled across the ground with a thud. The headless corpse twitched twice, then crashed to the ground. Your farmer has killed a level 1 savage wolf. You gained 10 experience and 1 gold. The attack power is overkill, but the agility is a real weakness. I calmly analyzed the battle. If Farmer One had been alone just now, that savage wolf would definitely have escaped after being wounded. After all, with 1 point of agility, a farmer couldn't hope to chase it down. It seemed that after leveling up, I had to prioritize an aura that boosted agility. The savage wolf's dying howl drew its nearby companions. I immediately ordered Farmer One and the others to shoulder the wolf corpse and pull back into the territory. Enough ants can bring down an elephant. Until I solved the speed problem, it was safer to play the bait and ambush game. Using the vast area of my territory, on the other side, I used the same method to keep luring and ambushing the savage wolves that strayed off alone. Your farmer has killed a level 1 savage wolf. You gained 10 experience. Your farmer has killed a level 1 savage wolf. You gained 10 experience and 1 gold. The system prompts sounded off one after another, and my experience bar climbed rapidly. Soon, as a golden light flashed across my body, the sound I'd been waiting for finally arrived. Congratulations, you've reached level 2. All stats +1, and you gained 1 skill point. Congratulations, you've obtained a new aura skill. Please choose one from the following 3 options. Here it comes. I rubbed my hands together, opening the skill selection screen with the anticipation of cracking open a mystery box. Option 1, Thorn Aura. Rare. Option 2, Focus Aura. Common. Option 3, Swift Aura. Common. My breath caught in my throat. Thorn Aura, Level 1. All friendly units reflect 100% of melee damage. Focus Aura, Level 1. All friendly units gain a 10 times boost to defense. Swift Aura, Level 1. All friendly units gain a 10 times boost to agility. A rare aura actually showed up in the very first round, and it was Thorn Aura, a bug-level existence. 100-fold damage reflection, and paired with the 10-fold defense of Focus Aura, my army of farmers could just stand there without moving and let the enemy smash themselves to death against them. This was a gift for the lazy. An unbeatable combo. Too bad, it was 1 out of 3. My core problem right now was that I couldn't catch up to the monsters. If I just picked Thorn Aura alone, the enemy would hit me once and run, and I'd still be left staring helplessly. I had to solve mobility first. I gave that purple Thorn Aura a somewhat reluctant look, then chose Swift Aura without hesitation. The gray auras beneath the farmer's feet instantly gained another ring, becoming 2 interwoven auras. I immediately added the new aura to Farmer 1 and checked his stats. Unit, Farmer. Farmer 1. Level 1. Strength, 22. That's 2 plus 20. Constitution, 1. Agility, 11. That's 1 plus 10. 11 agility. Already higher than a level 1 savage wolf. Looking at these stats, I nodded in satisfaction. Now my farmers were no longer glass cannons that could only stand and deal damage. They were true berserkers with real pursuit and hunting ability. I still had 1 precious skill point. Looking at the 2 level 1 auras on my panel, I didn't hesitate to put that point into Command Aura. Command Aura, Level 2. All friendly units gain a 20 times boost to strength. Looking at the wolf pack outside, restless and anxious over their missing companions, a cruel smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. All right, warm-up's over. Now it was my turn to go on the offensive and clear the field. Weakness patched, strength doubled. The farmers now could no longer be called farmers. I opened Farmer 1's stat panel, looked at those gorgeous numbers, and nodded in satisfaction. Unit, Farmer 1. Level 2. Strength, 63. That's 3 plus 60. Constitution, 2. Agility, 22. That's 2 plus 20. Talent, Resource Mastery. Troop levels rose along with mine, and after hitting level 2, their base stats each went up by 1 point. Better than nothing. Better than nothing. I knew that compared to those S-rank troops, the little stat boost my farmers got from leveling up was a total joke. When theirs leveled up, their stats climbed by the ton, and they'd even awaken new talents. My farmers, just like the Lord himself, only got a pitiful baseline boost. But so what? Under my auras, the gap was being erased into nothing, and even overturned. 63 points of terrifying strength, 22 points of agility. Their constitution was still paper thin, but purely in terms of output and mobility, this bunch of farmers of mine could already rival elite C-rank troops. A normal C-rank troop lord started with 10 troops at most. Me? I had 50. Sure, they were still glass cannons, but a crowd of glass cannons that could one-shot their opponents were still cannons. I split the 50 farmers into 10 squads, 5 to a squad, and appointed Farmer 1 through Farmer 10 as the captains. The territory is newly built, and we need a lot of resources. I stood before them, my voice steady and firm. I need you to go out and hunt, clear out all the beasts on the outskirts of the territory, and bring back every resource you can collect. Any questions? We serve at my lord's command. The 50 berserkers roared in unison, their morale so high it was as if they were about to conquer the world. They shouldered their axes and swept out in all directions with the territory at the center. Soon, my information panel was flooded like crazy. Your farmer has killed a level 1 wild wolf. You gained 5 experience. Your farmer has killed a level 1 wild boar. You gained 5 experience and 1 gold. Your farmer has killed a level 2 fierce tiger. You gained 10 experience and 1 gold. Before absolute strength and speed, these low-level wild monsters couldn't even take a single axe swing, turning one after another into my experience and gold. After confirming there were no problems with them hunting on their own, I finally let out a breath, turned, and walked into that rundown Lord's Hall, opening the regional chat channel. I'd only just come in, and everyone was busy, but there was never a shortage of idle chatter. Amy, help. My C-rank abomination stinks so bad. The whole territory reeks of rotting corpses. I'm going to be gassed to death. Fanjian, look at you upstairs, showing off. I'm treating my D-rank archer like an ancestor. Give me a C-rank troop, and I wouldn't care if it stank. If it took a dump on my neck, I'd praise it for a job well done. Qiu Xiangdong, same here. My E-rank slime has only killed 2 monsters so far. Once the protection period ends, I feel like I'm done for. My Kuan, stop chatting and go check the level rankings. Someone's already hit level 5. Ding the fatty, what the heck? Level 5? They must be cheating. How long have we even been in here? Huyen, Insider, it's normal. Number 1, Chris, S-rank Titan. Number 2, Qiu Xiangdong, S-rank Sky-devouring Python. Number 3, Elizabeth, S-rank Twin-winged Angel. For an S-rank in its infant stage, killing these small monsters is a slaughter. Fanjian, sigh, that's just fate. Still, once they've cleared the monsters around them, their leveling speed should slow down. They wouldn't dare let their precious S-rank babies run too far, right? Huyen, exactly. So the level rankings are just something to glance at. For us lords, the territory level rankings are the real deal. I wonder who'll be the first to hit level 10 and complete the Lord's Trial. I skimmed through it. It was all lords with low-level troops huddling together for warmth. No valuable intel. I closed the chat and opened the rankings. Level rankings. 1 Chris. Level 5. 2 Qiu Xiangdong. Level 5. 3 Elizabeth. Level 5. 4 Zhou. Level 5. 5 Arnold. Level 4. 6 Anonymous. Level 4. 10 Reina Manon. Level 4. The top 4 were all level 5, the rest level 4. This ranking didn't mean much. There was a lot of luck involved. If there were plenty of monsters around your territory, you leveled up fast. What really interested me was another ranking. Territory level rankings. 1 Elizabeth. Territory level 2. On the entire ranking, a single name hung there all alone. Elizabeth, her again. There was only one S-rank troop. How was she managing to grind monsters and level up efficiently while also quickly gathering resources to upgrade her territory? Could it be that angel troops, besides fighting, could also chop trees and mine, or? I was a little puzzled, but I quickly tossed the question aside. No matter how strong an angel was, could it be stronger than my auras? My farmers now had output when I needed output, and speed when I needed speed. And most crucially, their talent was resource mastery, gathering efficiency plus 50%. They could fight, grind monsters, and handle construction too. Looking at the wood and stone the farmers kept bringing back from outside, the corner of my mouth lifted slightly. Elizabeth, your number 1 trial pass has expired. This first place, I, Chen Xing, am taking it. My monster clearing efficiency wasn't as good as those troops with wide area skills, but I won out on numbers. With 50 berserkers working at once, the efficiency was still staggering. In less than half an hour, the golden light descended again. Congratulations, you've reached level 3. All stats +1, and you gained 1 skill point. I immediately opened the talent panel, rubbed my hands together, and started drawing a new aura. Option 1, Focus Aura. Common. Option 2, Life Aura. Common. Option 3, Power Strike Aura. Rare. This time my luck was mediocre. 2 commons and a rare aura I couldn't use at this stage. Focus Aura. Level 1. All friendly units gain a 10 times boost to defense. Life Aura. Level 1. All friendly units gain a 10 times boost to Constitution. Power Strike Aura. Level 1. All friendly ranged units gain a 100% boost to range. Power Strike Aura was a good thing, but it was useless to my current axe squad, so I ruled it out right away. The remaining 2 gave me some pause. 1 boosted defense, the other boosted Constitution, which meant health. Focus Aura had shown up for the second time now. If I didn't pick it, I'd almost feel bad about it. But after thinking for a moment, I still chose Life Aura. Focus Aura was good, but defense reduced incoming damage, while Constitution directly raised the maximum health cap, which gave more room for error. Besides, I leveled up fast, so I'd have plenty of chances to pick Focus Aura later. After settling on Life Aura, I put the newly gained skill point into Swift Aura, raising it to level 2. Swift Aura, level 2. All friendly units gain a 20 times boost to agility. The farmer's damage was already severely overkill, so there was no need to add more strength. Boosting agility would greatly increase monster clearing efficiency. But just as I finished allocating points and was about to enjoy the farmer's even more efficient slaughter, Farmer One's figure suddenly appeared within the territory, striding quickly toward me. "Greetings, my lord." What happened? My heart tightened. The starting troops had maxed out loyalty. Without my command, they would never return on their own. For him to come back now, something must have gone wrong. I instinctively glanced at the Lord's panel, and only after confirming there was no message about a farmer being killed did I relax a little. "Reporting to my lord," Farmer One said in a low voice. "While clearing the southern forest, we found traces of goblins. Following the trail, we discovered a goblin camp. Because we were worried about being spotted by goblin scouts, we didn't dare get close, but judging by the scale, it should be a small goblin camp." "How far away?" I immediately seized on the key point. "Very close," Farmer One estimated. "If you count their alert range, it's only about 3 kilometers from our territory." 3 kilometers. My brow furrowed tightly. At that distance, it was practically setting up home right on someone else's doorstep. Once my beginner protection period ended and the territory was exposed, it would definitely become the goblins' top target for attack. In the myriad world's battlefield, goblins were no beginner monsters. They were cunning, cruel, and lived in groups. A small camp would have level 5 goblin warriors at the very least, and there'd surely be stronger great goblins, maybe even a level 10 goblin chieftain and shaman. Worse still, they had organization, and they had goblin archers. If this were the premutation me, once the protection period ended, it would have been a certain dead end. My luck really is nothing short of amazing, I muttered under my breath. But now, who ends up dead is anyone's guess. "Farmer One, you did well." I praised him first, then immediately gave the order. "Go call everyone back right now. And remember, whatever you do, don't alert those goblins." "Yes, my lord." Farmer One took the order and left. Watching his departing figure, my mind raced. Fighting head-on was the worst option. The goblin camp had plenty of troops. Even if I could win, my farmers would surely take heavy losses. Not worth it. Outsmart them. Me, a modern man, playing Sun Tzu's Art of War with these natives? Give me a break. Their camp had scouts and sentries all in place. With my meager military know-how, I'd probably get spotted the moment I drew close. So the only path left before me was guerrilla warfare. Every level I gained, my strength changed dramatically. Just 1 or 2 more levels, and steamrolling this camp would be no problem. And the experience I needed to level up could be harvested right off these goblins. Charging their battle formation head-on might get some of my farmers killed because their constitution was too fragile. But hunting the scouts on their outskirts? That would be a piece of cake. My territory still had over 40 hours of protection left. I could fully exploit this absolute safe zone and play the tactic of when the enemy advances, I retreat. When the enemy retreats, I harass. Send farmers out to hunt isolated scouts, and the moment the goblin army mobilized, the farmers would immediately pull back into the territory. Once the goblin army couldn't find a target and withdrew, I'd keep sending people out to kill. Repeat this over and over, using their scouts to grind my levels. By the time they realized something was wrong, my level and auras would long since be enough to uproot their entire camp. A cold smirk tugged at the corner of my mouth. It's time to let these otherworldly natives get a taste of what a cheater's power really means. After recalling all the farmers, the first thing I did was check their latest stats. Unit, Farmer 1. Level 3. Strength, 84. That's 4 plus 80. Constitution, 33. That's 3 plus 30. Agility, 63. That's 3 plus 60. Spirit, 3. Excellent. Under the boost of 3 auras, aside from spirit, the other 3 stats were already quite impressive. 84 strength, 63 agility, 33 constitution. How were these still farmers? These were clearly a pack of humanoid beasts. Taking out a small squad of goblin scouts would definitely be no problem. The only thing to worry about was not letting a single one escape, or it would drag the army over and make things troublesome. I have to lure them over and wipe them out in one net. Thinking it over, I opened my own stat panel. Chinxing Human Race. Level 3. 225 out of 600. Class, Lord. Strength, 147. Agility, 126. Constitution, 77. Spirit, 7. Talent, Master of Auras. My stats were much higher than the farmers, but that didn't matter. I looked at my experience. I was 375 points short of level 4. Goblin scouts were level 5 monsters. I was level 3. Killing something 2 levels above me, one would provide about 20 experience. If a scout squad had 10 of them, then taking out just 2 squads would get me to level 4. By then, I'd get a new aura, level up command aura once more, and my farmer army's attack power would double yet again. At that thought, a perfect plan took shape in my mind. Farmer 10, take a squad and go chop trees. I gave the order to the farmers I'd just recalled. Going deep into the forest to ambush them was too risky. The best method was to make some noise, lure them over, then shut the door and beat the dogs. I could gather some wood along the way too. 2 birds, 1 stone. Yes, my lord. Farmer 10 took the order and led 4 farmers, axes over their shoulders, toward the forest's edge. Farmer 1, I turned to him next. Take the rest and come with me. I led 40 farmers, slipping silently into the forest, and set up a huge pocket formation centered on the spot where Farmer 10's squad was chopping trees. Once the formation was in place, I ordered Farmer 10 and his squad to start chopping. Thwack, thwack, thwack. Under the boost of 84 points of terrifying strength, the lumber axes bit into the trees like a hot knife through butter. Trees so thick it took a full arm span to embrace them were cleanly felled in just a few swings. The huge sounds carried far through the silent forest. I hid in the crown of a large tree, patiently waiting for the prey to take the bait. Just a few minutes later, movement came from deep within the woods. A squad of goblins riding giant wolves was charging this way at incredible speed. They wielded long sabers and wore crude leather armor. But that fierce, savage aura was nothing like ordinary goblins. Damn, my pupils shrank. Goblin wolf riders? These things had high mobility and burst power. They were an elite troop among goblins. Forget a small camp. Even a medium camp might not be able to afford to raise them. This goblin tribe was actually extravagant enough to use wolf riders as scouts. My heart sank. I realized this camp was far stronger than I'd imagined. But the arrow was already on the string. I had no choice but to loose it. Who could allow another to sleep soundly right beside their bed? No matter what kind of camp it was, this scout squad had to die today. I immediately signaled to the ambushing farmers. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the wolf riders to charge into the encirclement. This squad of goblin knights seemed used to running wild on their own turf, without a shred of the caution a scout should have. Like a gust of black wind, they plunged headfirst into my pocket formation. When they saw Farmer 10's squad chopping trees, the lead wolf rider captain's eyes lit up. It yanked hard on the reins, and the whole troop actually stopped, ever so cooperatively, right in the dead center of my encirclement. Jibber-gabber. At hashtag $%*. The goblin captain swung its saber, pointing at the farmers chopping trees at a pace to rival a logging machine, screeching in excited, twisted glee, as if it wanted to capture them and take them back as slaves. I'd been about to give the order to strike, but seeing this ridiculous scene, I forced the command back down and gestured for Farmer 1 and the others to keep quietly tightening the encirclement. By the time this pack of goblin wolf riders came to their senses, they were already surrounded, sealed in tight, by over 40 axe-wielding farmers. Yet facing the encirclement, this pack of wolf riders showed not the slightest tension. Instead, they wore mocking grins. In their eyes, this group of feeble-looking humans was no different from ants. Ants daring to surround a lion? Utterly laughable. They couldn't even be bothered to move, just watching mockingly as the farmers closed in step by step. Only when Farmer 1 got closest did the goblin captain raise its saber with a vicious grin, ready to declare its dominion over this forest with a bloody slaughter. It slashed down hard, straight at Farmer 1's head. In its imagination, this single strike was enough to cleave this scrawny human in two. But reality dealt it a heavy blow. At the very instant its saber came down, Farmer 1 moved. The lumber axe in his hand struck later but landed first, howling as it tore through the air, and at even greater speed, chopped hard into the goblin's waist. Splurt! A muffled thud. The goblin captain's body flew sideways off the wolf's back as if struck by a speeding truck. Half its torso was severed clean through, intestines and organs spraying with blood into a hauntingly beautiful arc through the air. Still in midair, it was already dead beyond dead. This sudden turn of events left every goblin wolf rider frozen in a daze. The ant, in their eyes, had one-shot their captain with a single axe swing. The shock of it was no less than watching an ant swallow an elephant whole. But the daze lasted less than a second. Roar! Finally, some wolf riders snapped out of it, roaring, ready to counterattack. But it was too late. Under absolute crushing superiority in both numbers and quality, the outcome of this battle had been decided from the very start. I stood in the tree, watching this one-sided slaughter, speechless. This pack of goblins had practically come to hand over their heads. stopping right in the center of the encirclement, then waiting like fools to be surrounded. I've lived this long and never seen an enemy so cooperative. The battle ended quickly. The farmer's greatest casualties were nothing more than a few claw-scratched wounds, and with 33 constitution behind them, these little injuries had already begun healing before the fight was even over. Your farmer has killed a level 5 Goblin Wolf Rider. Gained 20 experience, 1 Goblin Saber, 1 Goblin Light Armor, 10 gold. Your farmer has killed a level 3 Grey Wolf. Gained 10 experience, 5 gold. A string of system prompts left me overjoyed. The goblins and their wolf mounts counted their experience separately. 10 wolf riders gave me 20 shares of experience, 300 points in total. What surprised me even more was that these wolf riders had almost every single one dropped equipment. I struck it rich. Equipment drop rates were extremely low. That was common knowledge in the myriad worlds battlefield. Before this, my farmers had killed so many wild monsters and hadn't seen so much as a hair of equipment. But now, 10 Goblin Wolf Riders had actually dropped 13 pieces of equipment. This drop rate wasn't normal. A theory I'd seen on the school forums flashed through my mind. The racial demotion compensation mechanism. Supposedly, when a monster race was too powerful and its overall tier too high, for the sake of balance, the lower-ranking monsters of that race would be demoted, turning from elite monsters into ordinary ones. And as compensation, these demoted monsters got a significant boost to their drop rate. Looking at it now, this theory was probably 8 parts true. But this 130% drop rate was too absurd. Even with compensation, it shouldn't be this high. Could it be? There was some factor I didn't know about at play? I couldn't figure it out, so I stopped dwelling on it. Either way, a high drop rate was a huge blessing for me. My heart burned with excitement. This was no goblin camp. This was a massive treasure vault. Once my territory hit level 3 and unlocked the trading function, just selling this equipment alone could make me filthy rich. Faced with such enormous gains, I forced myself to calm down. No matter how big the vault, I needed to be alive to take from it. If these scouts were this strong, the depths of the camp had to be even more terrifying. Stay steady. Don't get cocky. Farmer 1. I gave the order, send a squad to drag the wolf corpses back as reserve rations. The goblin corpses, bring those back too, along with the junk equipment on them. Goblin corpses couldn't be eaten, but once I had farmland later, they'd make excellent fertilizer. The territory warehouse had a preservation function, so storing them cost me nothing. As for the attribute-less equipment they left behind after death, I could melt it down and reforge it once I built a blacksmith shop. Resources, not a single bit, could be wasted. After clearing the battlefield, I finally had time to check the loot stats. Goblin Saber. Common. Attack plus 50, Sharpness plus 1. Goblin Light Armor. Common. Health plus 50, Defense plus 1. The stats were crude and simple, like assembly line products. But in the beginner phase, these were absolutely divine artifacts. 1 point of strength roughly equaled 1 point of attack power. An E-rank troop, strength 20 to 50. Getting this saber would see its attack power double outright, instantly gaining output to rival a D-rank troop. For those lords with poor starting troops, this was equipment that could change their fate. It was a shame that auras couldn't boost equipment stats. But even so, it was better than nothing for me. Farmer 1, distribute this equipment. I kept a set for myself and handed out the remaining 10 sabers and 2 pieces of light armor to the farmers. With a weapon equipped, Farmer 1's attack power broke straight past the 100 mark. The threshold for B-rank troops was starting stats above 200. Now, as long as I leveled up once more and put a point into some defense or life aura, all my farmers would step into the ranks of B-rank troops. That would be the real qualitative leap. I had the farmers hide themselves again. This time, I didn't even need the tree chopping. With the scout squad wiped out to the last man, the goblin camp was bound to send people to investigate. The wait this time was a bit longer. Half an hour later, new prey appeared. But when I got a clear look at who was coming, my heart sank hard. This new squad of goblins stood nearly 2 meters tall, muscles knotted and bulging, powerful and fierce. The giant wolves beneath them were no longer ordinary gray wolves, but fang wolves covered in bony spikes, giving off an even more savage aura. Great goblins. My mind filled with question marks. Great goblins were the evolved form of goblins, usually captain-tier leaders. In a normal strategy walkthrough, after clearing the great goblins, you'd face the final boss, the goblin chieftain. But in this camp, elite monsters, the great goblins, were actually being sent out in squads to scout, like common soldiers, whose elite monsters come by the pile. I instantly caught on. The boss of this camp could not possibly be an ordinary goblin chieftain. Someone who could use great goblins as a regular force could only have one kind of leader, a goblin king. At that name, my expression turned utterly grim. The Goblin King, the Myriad Worlds Battlefield's infamous rookie killer, a super-tier monster that could pin down and pummel S-rank troops. There was a record of a level 10 S-rank troop lord being effortlessly steamrolled by the Goblin King, leading its army during a monster siege. By all logic, such an overpowered monster should never appear anywhere near a rookie lord. My territory had barely descended, and a Goblin King was already camping my doorstep. This could no longer be explained by luck, unless someone was pulling strings behind the scenes. I closed my eyes, and the abrupt blessing I'd heard when I first entered the Myriad Worlds battlefield flashed through my mind. At the time, I hadn't paid it any mind, assuming it was a system perk for newcomers. Now it seemed that blessing was deeply suspicious, and the only one who could have placed that blessing on me, aside from that woman, Shinwei, I couldn't think of anyone else. What a vicious scheme. She knew me too well. She knew I'd never bow beneath anyone, so she deliberately tampered with the contract. The moment I tore up the contract, the blessing scroll sealed within it took effect. The blessing effect was indeed powerful. A prime location rich in resources, an extremely high luck bonus, meaning boosted drop rates. But the price was having a super-tier monster camped at my door. For any normal rookie lord, this was a death trap with no way out. What a grand gesture. I couldn't help but sneer coldly. A rare scroll like this, even the Tianhong group couldn't produce many. To deal with a nobody like me, they'd actually invested such a fortune. After making an enemy, immediately exterminate them, leaving no future trouble. Was this how big corporations operated? Too bad they'd miscalculated one thing. They thought they were facing an ordinary lord, never imagining that I was a cheater. Looking at that menacing squad of great goblins in the distance, there was no fear in my eyes. Instead, a blazing will to fight ignited. Tianhong Group, Shinwei, Zhao Champeng, your kind intentions, I accept them gratefully. Once I've leveled this vault and completed the Lord's trial, I'll pay you a personal visit to properly thank you. Having guessed the Tianhong Group's vicious scheme, I actually felt more at ease. The Goblin King was indeed tricky, but not unsolvable. As long as I could devour this vault, my growth speed would skyrocket, leaving all the other rookie lords behind by a cliff-sized margin. From that angle, the Tianhong Group's poison gift had actually done me a huge favor. I gathered my thoughts and turned my gaze to the approaching great goblins. These fellows had higher intelligence. My earlier ambush method would most likely fail, so I did the opposite. Instead of having the farmers hide, I let them chop trees at the forest's edge out in the open, looking perfectly harmless. Sure enough, when this squad of great goblins saw my farmers, they instinctively ignored them. In their eyes, farmers without aura boost were just a bunch of ants they could crush at will. Who would bother guarding against ants? They warily scanned their surroundings, trying to find the cause of the earlier scout's disappearance, and naturally came up with nothing. And in the moment they were distracted, my ants had already quietly completed the encirclement. At $, get lost. The lead great goblin roared impatiently, trying to shoo away these bothersome farmers. But what greeted it was a saber thrust without the slightest hesitation from Farmer 1. The great goblin flew into a rage. A mere ant dared to swing a blade at it? It couldn't even be bothered to block, ready to take the hit head-on and then tear its opponent to shreds. Splurt. The saber pierced its chest with ease. In disbelief, it lowered its head, staring at the blade run clean through, and to its death it never understood why it had been one-shot by such a weak human. In the final moment before its consciousness faded, it saw its subordinates, before those feeble humans, slaughtered clean like chopped melons and sliced vegetables, without even a chance to resist. Moments later, the battle was over. Your farmer has killed a level 7 Great Goblin, Elite. Gained 50 experience, 1 Goblin Bloodthirst Greytax, 20 gold. Your farmer has killed a level 7 Great Goblin, Elite. Gained 50 experience, 1 Spirit Field Blueprint, 20 gold. The string of prompts filled my heart with joy. Great goblins truly lived up to being elite monsters, rich in experience with staggering drop rates. My level jumped straight to level 4. The loot was even more bountiful. 7 Goblin Bloodthirst Greytaxes and 5 sets of Tongue Oil Vine armor, all blue quality equipment. Their stats were more than double the earlier white equipment, and they came with skills attached. But what truly filled me with wild joy were the 3 blueprints that dropped. 2 Spirit Field Blueprints and 1 Watchtower Blueprint. Spirit fields. These were heaven-defying structures that could grow extraordinary plants in the myriad world's battlefield and bring them back to Blue Star. Their blueprint drop rate was outrageously low. The number of rookie lords who could obtain one each year could be counted on one hand. And I dropped two at once. The Tianhong group really are living bodhisattvas. I thanked them from the bottom of my heart and silently resolved that when I wiped them out in the future, I'd definitely go easy on them. There was no time to admire the loot in detail. I immediately distributed the new equipment. With 2 waves of scouts now missing, the goblin camp would soon make a big move. I had to develop as much as possible before their army mobilized. I left 20 farmers to chop wood at maximum pace in the southern forest, with orders to withdraw in half an hour. The remaining 30 I sent to the northern quarry to mine stone, which was relatively safe. With everything arranged, I finally opened the new aura waiting to be chosen after leveling up. Option 1, Brilliance Aura. Common. Option 2, Focus Aura. Common. Option 3, Heavy Strike Aura. Rare. Another rare aura. And it was Heavy Strike Aura. Heavy Strike Aura. Level 1. When any friendly unit attacks, there's a 10% chance to deal 10 times damage. Sure, a 10% trigger rate wasn't high, but this was 10 times damage. For my farmer army, this was a qualitative leap. I chose it without hesitation. As for Focus Aura, meeting me for the 3rd time now, I could only tell it, next time for sure, once again. A golden ring of light emerged beneath my feet, shining in harmony with the other 3 gray auras, dialing up the flare to the max. Next was allocating the skill point. I faced 2 choices. Raise Command Aura to level 3 for a stable 30 times attack boost, or raise Heavy Strike Aura to level 2, boosting the crit damage to 20 times. After a moment's hesitation, I chose the former. A 10% trigger rate was too dependent on luck, and 10 times crit damage was already enough. Any higher, and the damage would easily overflow. Stably boosting the entire force's attack power was the way to go. After Command Aura rose to level 3, Farmer 1's stats surged again. Farmer 1. Level 4. Strength, 155. That's 5 plus 150. Constitution, 44. That's 4 plus 40. Agility, 84. That's 4 plus 80. Counting the 100 attack power from the blue great axe, his panel attack had broken past 250. These stats, among all rookie lords, were absolutely in a class of their own. By now, the resources the farmers had gathered were also sufficient. Resources, 720 wood, 170 stone, 760 gold. Territory upgrade requirements, 100 wood, 100 stone, 100 gold, level 1 warehouse. I immediately set about building the warehouse. Warehouse, level 1. Resources required to build, 50 wood, 50 stone. Build? Yes. A flash of white light, and a wooden warehouse appeared out of thin air. With this temperature-controlled, freshness-preserving marvel of technology, all conditions for upgrading the territory were now met. I didn't hesitate and pressed the upgrade button. Congratulations, my lord. Your territory has successfully reached level 2. After the territory hit level 2, the population cap rose to 200, and it unlocked a core building, the trading hall. Without hesitation, I immediately spent resources to build it beside the Lord's Hall. A structure full of fantastical style rose from the ground, and a virtual trading panel unfolded before me. I was eager to find something that could boost my combat power right away, like a powerful troop card. But reality doused me with cold water. The trading panel was flooded with basic resources like wood and stone, with the occasional piece of equipment priced absurdly high. Clearly, at this stage, all the lords were dirt poor, still struggling to explore and break new ground. The dream of soaring to the top in one step was shattered. In that case, my eyes turned cold. Then let me be the house. First, I listed those white-quality Fongwolf bracers dropped by the great goblins, pricing them at 200 gold apiece. This kind of equipment had poor versatility, and hero units hadn't come out yet, so it could only be sold to non-lord classes. The price couldn't go too high. Next, I made a bold decision. I had Farmer 1 send back all 13 pieces of ordinary white equipment I distributed earlier. What I needed now was to level up the territory fast, not that negligible little stat boost. White equipment, I priced uniformly at 500 gold. The 3 blue-quality Goblin Bloodthirst Great Axes, I marked straight at 3,000 gold. I knew this price was steep, but right now it was an absolute seller's market. Those chosen ones, who'd rolled high-ranked troops, were all loaded. What they lacked was exactly the equipment that could convert their troop advantage into immediate combat power. For them, 3,000 gold wasn't buying equipment. It was buying a head start on status. The instant my equipment went up, the entire trading channel exploded. Damn, which big shot took out a goblin nest? So much equipment. Blue rare equipment. Selling for 3,000 gold. Why don't you go rob someone instead? Quit whining. You broke ghost upstairs. You wouldn't understand the world of the rich. 3,000 gold for a blue weapon. Worth it. Order placed. Thank you, big shot. A good weapon was all I was missing. Arg. How did the ordinary equipment vanish in an instant? I only hesitated for a second. Damn it, which loaded dog bought the whole lot? Are you leaving any way for regular folks to survive? I'd underestimated just how starved these lords were for equipment. Almost in an instant, aside from the single highest-priced Bloodthirst Great Axe, all the equipment was swept clean. Ding. Transaction successful. You've gained 6,500 gold. Ding. Transaction successful. You've gained 6,000 gold. A string of chimes rang out, and my gold balance instantly soared to 14,500. Looking at that number, my heart stirred with all kinds of feelings. Not long ago, the Tianhong group had given me endless grief over a mere 100 starting gold. And now, I turned around and made over 10,000 gold. Looks like I really do need to thank the Tianhong group properly. I let out a long breath. This time, it came from the heart. Without the blessing they'd gifted me, I could never have had such an astonishing drop rate, let alone amass such terrifying wealth on the very first day. Of course, gratitude was gratitude. This account, I'd settle with them in full, principal and interest, sooner or later. With a fortune in hand, I began a frenzied shopping spree. In the trading market, every bit of wood and stone priced under 1 gold per unit. I snatched it all. My frantic buying forcibly drove the price of basic resources up several times over. The 10,000 plus gold I'd only just gotten, barely warm in my hands, was spent more than half away in the blink of an eye. Soon, the amount of resources in my hands reached a staggering 5,000 plus units. Upgrade. Without the slightest hesitation, I raised my territory in one breath, straight from level 2 to level 4. When I wanted to keep pushing for level 5 to unlock the game-changing structure, the barracks, I found I was short on resources. It wasn't that I lacked gold, but that the resources in the trading market had already been bought out by me. In the chat channel, countless lords who couldn't develop due to the skyrocketing resource prices were frantically cursing me. The profiteering hoarder. I couldn't have cared less. It seemed reaching level 5 in a short time was impossible. A bit of a shame, but I'd anticipated it. I turned my attention to the defensive structure unlocked at territory level 4, the Arrow Tower. Arrow Tower. Attack power 100. Build price, 1,000 wood, 1,000 stone, 1,000 gold. Expensive, but worth every bit. This was precious defensive power for the territory's early stage. I immediately built 4 arrow towers, firmly guarding the territory's key points. Just as I was setting up defenses, a tremendous clamor came from the direction of the forest. Here they come. I immediately recalled all the farmers gathering outside. Moments later, a dense black tide of a goblin army surged out from the woods. At the front were nearly 200 great goblin knights riding fawn wolves. Behind them followed a squad of goblin shamans wielding staves. And at the very center of the army, a monster even bullier than a great goblin was surrounded like stars around the moon. I'd assumed that was the Goblin King, but after I cast Investigate on it, the information displayed made my pupils shrink. Goblin Hero, Leader. Level 8. Stats. Description: a born commander of the Goblin race, the most loyal general under the Goblin King. It was actually a hero unit, and a commander-type leader-tier monster at that. With him present, working alongside those shamans, this great Goblin Legion's combat power was probably boosted by more than 50% out of thin air. A small goblin camp not only had a Goblin King presiding over it, but had even dispatched a rare goblin hero. Looking at that menacing army, I couldn't help but let the corner of my mouth curve upward. This prime feng shui location really was giving me one surprise after another. This army led by a goblin hero was enough to crush any rookie lord at this stage. Even an S-rank troop, going head-to-head, would find only a dead end. Fortunately, the beginner protection law still held. They ignored my territory and headed straight for the northern quarry. Looking at the goblin hero trailing at the rear of the column, a flicker of madness flashed in my eyes. I knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If I didn't take him out, the moment my farmers stepped out of the territory, he'd immediately lead troops to kill them. My development would grind to a complete halt, and the reward for being first to reach a level 10 territory would slip away from me. I couldn't wait. I couldn't afford to wait. So he had to die? It was risky, but the payoff was just as enormous. Once I killed him, the Goblin King would shrink back into the camp, unable to threaten my growth ever again. On top of that, the drops from a leader tier boss were enough to send me soaring. The core of the plan lay in my level. I was just 600 experience short of level 5. Killing one level 7 Great Goblin gave 40 experience, which meant I only needed to take out 15 Great Goblins to level up instantly and gain a new rare aura. A powerful new aura was my trump card for one-shotting the Goblin Hero. I decided to bet on it once. I would send out 40 farmers. 20 would be responsible for instantly hunting down the straggling Great Goblins, buying me time to level up. The other 20 would charge straight at the Goblin Hero to carry out the decapitation. Just in case, I kept 11 farmers back as a last spark. Win, and the sky was the limit. Lose, and I'd have no choice but to abandon my bid for supremacy, hunker down and develop, and await judgment after the protection period ended. I drew a deep breath, my gaze locked hard on the distant Goblin Hero. The chance would come only once. The Goblin Hero directed the main force to scatter into the mining area, leaving only a few dozen guards at his side. The moment had arrived. I immediately ordered the 40 farmers out of the territory, feigning resource gathering as they slowly approached him. The Goblin Hero's vigilance was extremely high. He spotted my people right away. The shamans behind him instinctively raised their staves, and my heart leapt straight to my throat. If they attacked now, my plan would be declared a failure. Percent at asterisk at, let them come. Unexpectedly, the Goblin Hero stopped the shamans. Looking at those utterly harmless farmers of mine, a trace of curiosity showed in his eyes. Perhaps he wanted to find clues about the scout's disappearance from these ants. His arrogant instinct handed me the chance for a kill. Seeing the farmers about to enter attack range, I withdrew my gaze and focused every bit of my mind on the stat panel. Success or failure, it all came down to this. The instant the farmers drew close, the sudden change struck. Alarm bells blared in the Goblin Hero's heart, but it was already too late. For resplendent auras roared to life beneath my farmers' feet. The once harmless sheep instantly transformed into prehistoric tyrannosaurs wielding great axes. The 20 farmers tasked with grinding experience, like tigers into a flock of sheep, struck ferociously at the nearest Great Goblin Knights. Boom. One Great Goblin Knight didn't even have time to react before its upper body, under the 10 times crit of the Heavy Strike aura, burst directly into a mist of blood. The other struck knights, even if they were lucky enough not to be one-shot, were instantly finished off by the follow-up strikes that came right after. The Goblin Hero was horrified beyond words. And what terrified him even more was that the other 20 aura-bearing human tyrannosaurs were charging straight at him. He reflexively swung his blade, sending the frontmost farmer flying, the immense force instantly pushing his target to the brink of death. So that's it. Their attack power is just high. That's all. The Goblin Hero settled a little. As long as he wasn't one-shot by that terrifying crit, these fragile humans were nothing to fear. The shamans behind him snapped out of it too and began casting buff spells on their allies. At the same time, chimes went off frantically in my ears. Congratulations, your farmer has killed a Great Goblin Knight. You've gained 40 experience. Congratulations, you've reached level 5. You've gained a new aura choice. Here it comes. Not blinking an eye, I instantly opened the aura options. Option 1, Lifesteal Aura, Rare. Option 2, Endurance Aura, Rare. Option 3, Thorn Aura, Rare. Lifesteal Aura, Level 1. When any friendly unit attacks, it gains 100% damage lifesteal. That's the one. Without hesitation, I chose Lifesteal Aura. The next second, I put the skill point gained from leveling up not into attack, but slammed it straight into Life Aura. The aura rose to level 2. All units' health boosted 20 times. With Lifesteal Aura, as long as they weren't one-shot, my farmers were immortal. And boosting health meant boosting my margin for error. Originally, I'd already prepared to sacrifice these 40 farmers. But now, looking at the newly gained aura, an even more insane idea sprouted in my heart. Leave this entire 200-strong Great Goblin Legion here, every last one of them. The Goblin Hero had just breathed a sigh of relief when he witnessed a scene he'd never forget for the rest of his life. That farmer he'd beaten to the brink of death struggled back to his feet and casually swung an axe at a Goblin Knight beside him. A flash of red light, and the farmer's wounds actually healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, he was back in fighting form, as if that lethal blow just now had been nothing but an illusion. The goblin hero was utterly dumbfounded. What is this situation? The goblin hero couldn't comprehend anything happening before him. How was this lifesteal? This was treating a major artery like a straw and slurping away at it. He watched helplessly as the farmers he'd gravely wounded turned, swung an axe into an ally, and their injuries instantly restored. This undying ability shattered his will to fight completely. It's over. Despair enveloped his heart. By now, the other farmers had cut clean through his guards, surrounding him from all sides. A cornered beast still fights. The goblin hero was a leader-tier boss after all. In his frenzied last-ditch counterattack before death, coordinating with the shaman's focused fire spells, he actually managed to instantly kill 3 of my farmers who hadn't had time to lifesteal. It was the first time my forces had suffered casualties. But that was as far as it went. As the goblin hero crashed to the ground, the remaining great goblin knights broke into complete rout. Relying on the high mobility of cavalry, they scattered and fled, while the short-legged goblin shamans, not one escaped, all chopped into meat paced by my farmers. The battle over, I couldn't wait to open the battle report and jump straight to the most crucial line. Congratulations, you've killed the goblin hero, leader tier. Gained 2,000 experience, 1,000 gold. Ding. You've obtained equipment. Decapitation blade, purple. Goblin commander wore armor, purple. Lord's ring, purple, special. Ding. You've obtained blueprints. Heavy cannon tower blueprint. Blacksmith shop blueprint. Ding. You've obtained a troop card. Great goblin troop card. Congratulations on your first kill of a leader tier monster. World reward gained. 1 skill point. 3 free stat points. A huge drop. An absolutely massive drop. 3 purple pieces of equipment. 2 rare blueprints. 1 troop card. Plus the precious first kill world reward. Even with the Tianhong blessing backing me, a drop rate like this was downright heaven-defying. Suppressing my wild elation, I quickly reviewed the haul. The battle had pushed me to level 6, and with the first kill reward, I now held a new aura selection, plus 2 precious skill points. Option 1, Focus Aura. Option 2, Vitality Aura. Option 3, Thorn Aura. Thorn Aura, Level 1. All friendly units reflect 100% of melee damage. Without the slightest hesitation, I chose Thorn Aura. A 100% melee reflection, paired with 100% lifesteal, was an unbeatable combination. It meant that when my farmers took a melee hit, not only would they not lose health, they'd actually recover it from the reflected damage. Next, I put both skill points into Life Aura. Life Aura, Level 4. All friendly units' health boosted 40 times. The farmer's constitution stat was instantly piled up to a terrifying figure. Now they weren't just undying cockroaches, they were heavy-armored health tanks. You could say that, apart from the Goblin King himself, nothing in this beginner region could threaten me any longer. With the skills handled, I began checking the dropped items. The Decapitation Blade and the Goblin Commander War Armor were both purple gear with decent stats, but I had no use for them. I simply slapped sky-high prices on them and listed them in the trading market, waiting for some destined sucker to trade rare resources for them. The third piece of equipment, though, made my breath catch. Lord's Ring, Lord Exclusive Equipment. Tier, Purple, Special. Stats. All units under your command gain 5% attack power and 5% defense. Special effect, Territory Protection, active. Borrow the power of the territory to block 1 fatal blow for you. Cooldown, 24 hours. Noble percentage stats, and a life-saving skill on top. This was simply the perfect piece of equipment tailor-made for me. Without hesitation, I put it on. Next were the blueprints. I had no use for the heavy cannon tower blueprint either, so it went to the trading house. But the blacksmith shop blueprint made my eyes light up completely. Blacksmith shop can be built within the territory to forge equipment in a steady stream. This was no mere blueprint. This was a money tree that laid golden eggs. Unfortunately, building it required a level 5 territory and a blacksmith, so for now I could only set it aside. Last was the Great Goblin Troop card. Though only a D-rank troop, its stats far exceeded the farmers. Once I reached a level 5 territory and unlocked the barracks, I could recruit them, and my combat power would take yet another leap. Having tallied all the loot, I looked at the 3 fallen farmer corpses. There was no grief in my heart, only a cold, warlord-like ruthlessness. Their sacrifice had been worth it. In this one battle, I hadn't just cleared the biggest obstacle to my early development, I'd also gained a massive advantage enough to crush every other player. Next, it would be my time. Killing the goblin hero had earned me a full pot of gold. The massive equipment and experience had successfully landed me at the tail end of the level rankings. The ranking wasn't high, but the appearance of the name, Chen Xing, left a certain someone sitting on pins and needles. Meanwhile, in another territory, Zhao Changpeng stared at that familiar name on the level board, his face so grim it could drip water. How could he possibly be on the board? He couldn't comprehend it. Chen Xing's starting troop was the utterly combat-worthless farmer, something he'd personally arranged. In his view, Chen Xing should be cowering and trembling in his territory right now. How could he possibly gain experience and level up? Could it be a bug-tier terrain? Zhao Changpeng turned it over and over and found only this one explanation. He believed Chen Xing had gotten dumb luck, finding special terrain that let him grind monsters without taking damage. This trash's luck really is something else. His eyes turned cold and grim. Looks like I'll have to go find him ahead of schedule. His original plan had been to wait until the protection period was nearly over, then go harvest Chen Xing's estate. But now, Chen Xing's unexpected rise had made him feel threatened. He understood the potential of the myriad world's blessing better than anyone. When I find you, I'll make you regret stirring up all this trouble. Zhao Changpeng recalled his exclusive troops, two massive, twin-headed wyverns. These were no ordinary A-rank bipedal wyverns, but A-plus rank mutant troops evolved under the effect of a treasure called the Stone of Glory. And that Stone of Glory should have belonged to me. Zhao Changpeng, the genius the Tianhong group had courted, was also the very instigator who'd originally proposed using the myriad world's blessing against me. Everything he'd done was a meticulously planned conspiracy. He'd coveted the Stone of Glory in my rookie gift pack, so he'd colluded with the Tianhong group, trading away nearly everything he had to obtain the treasure. He'd also fixed his eyes on the high-risk, high-reward, myriad world's blessing, but he didn't dare bear its negative effects himself. So he'd made me his bait and his coordinate, using a special scroll to descend his own territory near mine. He wanted me to bear all the risk while he sat back like the fisherman reaping the reward, enjoying the abundant resources the blessing brought. Now, the second-tier quest of the Stone of Glory was precisely to destroy a lord's territory, and I was the sacrifice he'd chosen. Just one more quest completed, and my twin-headed wyverns can evolve into the S-rank, three-headed chimera. Once I have S-rank troops, then I'll annex Chen Xing's prime land. I, Zhao Changpeng, will become the strongest lord on the myriad world's battlefield. Madness and greed glittered in his eyes. As for me, in his view, I was nothing more than a stepping stone on the road of the strong. He mounted one of the twin-headed wyverns, used that scroll locked onto my position, and a virtual arrow surfaced before his eyes. The target pointed straight at my territory. Zhao Changpeng never dreamed that from the very moment he stepped within 4 kilometers of my territory, his every move was already laid bare under the watch of my level 4 sentry towers. He hid cautiously in the distant forest, peeping at my territory like a thief. The wretched look on his face and his lingering, shaken expression were just too rich. Clearly, he'd suffered plenty on the way here. Where'd this fool come from? Watching him over there mentally inventing my development story, one moment jealous and resentful, the next smug, I nearly laughed out loud. He thought I'd found some bug-exploiting terrain. He thought my farmers couldn't withstand a single blow. He'd even solemnly deduced that I couldn't grind monsters and could only hunker down in my territory. I had to admit, his imagination was vivid. And I, meanwhile, was pondering a very serious question. How could I slaughter him and those 2 flying lizards of his, leaving not a single one alive? Flying units really were a nuisance. If a single strike failed and he escaped, the trouble would never end. Just as I was thinking through a foolproof plan, this genius had already written himself a lure the snake out of its whole script. He intended to have his twin-headed wyverns attack the farmers I had chopping wood, creating casualties to lure me out of the territory, then use the other wyvern he'd set in ambush to intercept and kill me. The plan was crude and simple, reeking of a strong man's arrogance. Watching him, under the sentry tower's surveillance, brazenly approach my farmers, I paused. Seriously? He's going to hand himself over. This really was someone bringing a pillow the moment you got sleepy. If he'd had even a shred of a brain and used his aerial advantage to play gorilla in the sky, wearing me down slowly with ranged attacks, I might have had a bit of a headache. But of all things, he chose the dumbest method, a melee sneak attack. I looked at him with a touch of pity. He didn't know that what he was about to face was a pack of monsters with the Thorn aura and the Lifesteal aura. 100% melee reflection. 100% damage lifesteal. Melee? That wasn't called an attack. That was called suicide. Zhao Changpeng gave the command to the twin-headed wyvern before him. That pitiful wyvern suddenly leapt up, spread its talons, and with a diving shriek, lunged at a farmer chopping wood. In its eyes, the farmer below was like a lamb awaiting slaughter. But that farmer merely, silently, raised the axe in his hands. Splurt, splurt. Two muffled thuds of blades sinking into flesh sounded almost simultaneously. The twin-headed wyvern's talons carved wounds deep enough to see bone across the farmer's chest, but the wounds instantly healed. At the same time, a terrifying reflected force acted upon the twin-headed wyvern itself. Two equally hideous claw marks appeared across its own chest, blood spraying. And more lethal still was the farmer's counterstrike. The 10 times crit of heavy strike aura triggered. The decapitation blade, with its decapitation special effect attached, slashed precisely at the twin-headed wyvern's two necks. Chuck! A flash of cold light. The twin-headed wyvern, so majestic just moments ago, had both heads soar into the sky, its massive headless dragon corpse crashing heavily to the ground. In the distance, Zhao Changpeng, just settling in to enjoy the farmer being torn to shreds, felt the smug smile on his face freeze instantly. He rubbed his eyes, mouth gaping wide enough to fit an egg, his mind a total blank. No, no way. Where's my great big twin-headed wyvern? Zhao Changpeng was utterly dumbfounded. Everything had happened too fast for him to react before the battle report popped up. Your twin-headed wyvern has fallen. His heart sank hard. He reflexively wanted to order the other wyvern to retreat, but it was already too late. He was too far from the ambushing wyvern, and the command simply couldn't be conveyed. The next second, a new battle report popped up mercilessly. Your twin-headed wyvern has fallen. It's over. Zhao Changpeng's vision went black, as if plunging into an icy pit. He finally understood that I hadn't relied on any terrain bug at all, but on absolute, hard strength. 50 monsters that could each solo an A+ rank troop. He finally realized just what kind of existence he'd provoked. In his despair, he didn't give up, but cautiously retreated in the direction opposite my territory. He prayed I hadn't spotted him. But when he turned around, several farmers wielding great axes were already quietly blocking his escape route. Those few seemingly ordinary old farmers shattered the last shred of luck in his heart completely. He gave up resistance, and like a dead dog hauled up by the scruff, was dragged back to my territory. My lord, the man's been brought in. I waved Farmer 1 back and studied the wretched fellow on the ground with great interest. Go on, tell me. Who are you? I was wrong. Big brother, I was wrong. Zhao Changpeng burst into tears, instantly switching into best actor mode. I just had a momentary lapse of judgment. I only tried to make a move because your territory looked undefended. Please, for the sake of us all being from Blue Star, spare my life. I'm willing to pay a ransom. I'll give you anything. He wept with such raw sincerity that he even went so far as to kneel and kowtow. I watched his performance quietly, but my heart was cold. If not for my absolute strength, the one kneeling on the ground begging for mercy right now would have been me. I narrowed my eyes slightly and suddenly spoke. You're Zhao Changpeng, aren't you? The name, Twin-Headed Wyvern, on the kill notification had let me instantly string everything together. Zhao Changpeng's body jolted violently, the expression on his face freezing. I stared at him and asked, word by word, I'm curious. You went to all this trouble, even willing to give up your own development, just to come kill me. What exactly was it for? Hearing me expose his identity, Zhao Changpeng knew he could no longer keep up the disguise. He slowly raised his head. The fear and pleading on his face vanished, replaced by the sneer of a man who decided to break the pot since it was already cracked. Killing you? Do I need a reason? He sneered coldly. Getting in my way is reason enough for you to die. Oh, a ruthless one, huh? I laughed and pointed at a chair beside me. Sit down and let's talk. Tell me how exactly I got in your way. Zhao Changpeng didn't stand on ceremony, sitting straight down across from me. Having thrown life and death completely aside, he'd instead gained a trace of the calm of a warlord at the end of his road. He pulled a stone from his inventory and flicked it over to me. This is the reason you deserve to die. I reached out and caught it. I recognized this stone. It was exactly the one I'd pulled from my rookie gift pack, the stone of glory that Shun Wei had later swiped. What's this thing good for? I asked directly. This is a true treasure of the myriad worlds battlefield, Zhao Changpeng said frankly. Its function is to open the road of glory or the road of evolution. The road of evolution lets your troops evolve 3 times. and I was just one step away from evolving my twin-headed wyverns into the S-rank, three-headed chimera. Here's the English translation, continuing in the same style. As for the road of glory, he paused, his tone complicated. The quest difficulty is extremely high. Geniuses of all races have ended in failure. But I know the rewards must be rich beyond imagination. He looked at me, his eyes a mix of jealousy, resentment, and a trace of resignation. I finally stumbled onto this massive windfall, and yet I ran into a cheater like you. Cleverness can't beat fate. I accept it. I toyed with the stone of glory in my hand, everything now clear. So the root of all this lay in this unremarkable stone. It was not only the reason I'd been betrayed, but the very fuse for this life and death battle between Zhao Changpeng and me. And now, this treasure that should have been mine had finally been returned to its rightful owner. Stone of glory, road of glory. I murmured for a moment. Zhao Changpeng hadn't lied. This stone was far more precious than I'd imagined. His candor was only because he was certain I'd die and wanted to dig a pit for me before his end. He knew that with my pride, I'd never choose the mediocre road of evolution. So what's your choice? Road of glory or road of evolution? A strange smile played on Zhao Changpeng's face, the certainty of one who knows you have no other choice. Haven't you already figured it out? I looked at him flatly. You told me all this because you want me to choose the road of glory, don't you? Haha, exactly. Zhao Changpeng laughed loudly, not bothering to hide his intent. Your farmer's foundation is too weak. Evolution wouldn't make them much stronger. The road of glory is your only choice. Set foot on that road, and it's either death or becoming a powerhouse at the peak of the myriad worlds. I'll be waiting to see your end. He wanted to see me die, and also wanted to see me become king. Dying at the hands of a future king was, to him, no disgrace. I paid no mind to his scheming. With the Aura Master power in hand, I feared no challenge. Any last words? I asked calmly. I was never favored in the Zhao family. No one will care that I'm dead, Zhao Changpeng said, seeming rather carefree. But if you get the chance, do me a favor and wipe out the Tianhong group along the way. A bunch of trash who don't even dare enter the myriad world's battlefield, and they think they're worthy of making me, Zhao Changpeng, their dog. Fine. I nodded, taking it as an agreement. I'll kill them all and send them to keep you company. The words falling, I wasted no more breath and threw a punch. Under the aura's boost, my stats rivaled an S-rank troops. This single punch shattered his internal organs outright. You've successfully killed a lord and utterly destroyed a territory. Please choose how to handle the territory. Option 1. Take over the territory. Option 2. Plunder the territory. Option 3. Destroy the territory. I had no time to go find his territory, so I directly chose destroy. You've destroyed a territory. Gained 1,000 wood, 600 stone, 3,000 gold. Congratulations, you've obtained a special item through the kill, Stone of Glory. Zhao Changpeng was pitifully poor, and the drops were meager. I put away the miscellaneous junk and directly took out that priceless Stone of Glory. Stone of Glory, activated. Please choose a path. 1. Road of Evolution. 2. Road of Glory. Note: the Road of Glory is exceedingly arduous. Please be sure to know your limits. Without the slightest hesitation, I chose the Road of Glory. Congratulations on choosing the Road of Glory. Your troop type has been detected as Ordinary Farmer, generating your exclusive prerequisite conditions. Human Glory. Your territory's barracks will be fixed as the exclusive barracks. Your exclusive troop, the Farmer, can undergo class change in the barracks, gaining class skills and a substantial stat boost. Note: once the exclusive barracks is built, you can only recruit the exclusive troop, the Farmer. Note: when a Farmer class changes, it does not increase population demand. Do you wish to take the path of human glory? Reading the prompt, I froze at first, then was overcome with wild joy. Give up all other troop types and only use farmers? At first glance, this was an enormous restriction. No matter how much a Farmer class changed, its base panel couldn't compare to a true S-rank troop. But that last note overturned everything completely. Class change does not increase population demand. What did this mean? In the myriad world's battlefield, all territories had a population cap. The stronger the troop, the more population it took up. An S-rank dragon might even take up 50 population. A territory with 1,000 population could barely support a handful. But my farmers, each one took up only 1 population. This meant that while other lords were still fretting over scraping together 100-strong legion, I could effortlessly raise an army of 1,000 or even 10,000. And the recruitment price for farmers was cheap as good as free. For me, who held the Aurum Master Power, quantity was quality. What's more, class-changed farmers would gain a substantial stat boost too, filling in my ranged weakness. How was this a restriction? This was clearly a god-tier talent tailor-made for me. Yes. Without the slightest hesitation, I made my choice. From this day on, I would lead my farmer legion down a path to overlordship unprecedented in all history. Human glory selected. Road of Glory opened. With the choice made, the Stone of Glory's attributes took on a fresh new look. Stone of Glory, Road of Glory. Type, Special Treasure. Current quest, kill a super tier creature before reaching level 10. Quest reward, unlock more ordinary classes. When your exclusive troops class change, there's a chance to change into a hidden class. Glory structure, exclusive barracks, not yet built. Assessment, advance along the road of glory, and you will become the strongest in the myriad worlds. The very first quest requires killing a super tier monster. Seeing this quest, I finally understood why Zhao Changpeng had called this road incomparably difficult. This difficulty, forget Blue Star Lords, even Zhao Changpeng at his peak could only go to his death. But for me, none of this was a problem. Super tier monster? Just a lamb awaiting slaughter. Once I built the barracks, I'd start with that Goblin King first. What's more, the quest reward was simply too tempting. Hidden classes. Sure, it was only a chance, but I had so many farmers. Others painstakingly scraped together a few hidden classes as their trump cards, while I could simply field an entire army of hidden classes. Just imagining that scene got me fired up. Putting away the Stone of Glory, I opened the trading market. The equipment I'd listed earlier had long sold out, and a torrent of gold had poured into my pocket. By now, since the various lords had gotten past the early stage, resource output had surged and prices had stabilized. But in my eyes, this meant the leeks were ripe. Time to harvest. Without hesitation, I swung my gold around and stirred up a storm in the market. Wood buy, stone buy, blueprints buy. Like a ruthless buyout machine, I swept up everything in the market that caught my eye. The once stable resource prices, I forcibly drove up by double. The chat channel exploded instantly, countless lords sending me their warm regards. I couldn't have cared less. All lords were competitors, and the market rule was highest bidder wins. With a massive stockpile of resources in hand, the first thing I did was upgrade my territory to level 8, and then build the exclusive barracks. Barracks. Recruitable troop. Human farmer. 10 gold each. Class change hall. Farmers can class change here. Currently available, warrior, shield soldier, archer. The recruitment price for farmers was outrageously cheap. Suppressing my excitement, I immediately called over a farmer and had him class change into the ranged unit I most urgently needed right now, the archer. Pay 100 gold to class change. Class changing costs money too. This system was an absolute profiteer. Grumbling inwardly, I still chose to pay. A flash of light, and the farmer who'd walked in had a white hunting bow on his back, his stat panel undergoing an earth-shaking change. Farmer 7. Class, farmer/archer. Rank, E. Strength, 16 plus 480. Constitution, 16 plus 640. Agility, 22 plus 440. Talent, precision strike. Skills, eagle eye, rapid shot. After the class change, the farmer's troop rank jumped straight from none to E, and the stats fully matched the standard of an E-rank troop. My heart burned with excitement. Did this mean my farmer legion could, in the future, keep evolving from E-rank all the way up to D-rank, C-rank, even S-rank? By then, I'd have tens of thousands of S-rank troops. Who would dare defy me? I immediately recruited 253 new farmers, bringing the total to 300. Then, spending a fortune, I class changed them into 100 archers, 40 warriors, and 10 shield soldiers, with the remaining 150 continuing as my glorious gathering workers. The class-changed warriors and shield soldiers also gained powerful exclusive talents and skills. My army had finally filled in the melee, defense, and ranged gaps. A powerful legion of considerable scale had taken shape. Goblin King, your death day has come. But I was in no rush. I upgraded all the buildings in my territory to the top tier, then built all the lumber mill and quarry blueprints I'd swept up from the market. In the spirit field, using goblin corpses as fertilizer, I planted rice. Looking at the resources piled up like mountains in the warehouse and my orderly, well-run territory, my heart filled with satisfaction. Everything was ready. All that remained was to point my blades and level the goblin camp. I'd just about finished building up my territory when the regional chat channel had already exploded completely. Ark, how did the number 1 suddenly become level 8? Are my eyes playing tricks, or is the system bugged? Xing? Who's that? Is there such a person among the S-rank lords? I know him. Isn't he that unlucky guy who rolled the farmer troop? How could he possibly have reached level 8? Farmers have a gathering bonus. Could he have leveled up purely by gathering? But where'd the gold come from? Does he have a gold mine at home? My A-rank troops are only level 4, and I guarantee pure gathering absolutely can't be this fast. A level 8 territory, you could work your farmers to death and still not gather that many resources. All sorts of speculation and doubt poured out endlessly, until the appearance of an insider turned the spearhead toward the Tianhong group. If I'm not wrong, that equipment on the trading market was all sold by Xing. He traded equipment for resources and forcibly smashed his territory up to level 8. That's not right. Where'd he get so much equipment? I'm level 5 and haven't seen so much as a hair of a piece of gear. I've got it. It's the blessing of the myriad worlds battlefield. That mythic tier death sentence scroll. Damn, that scroll where you're doomed to die the moment you use it. With super tier monsters all around your territory, the Tianhong group is too vicious. Using a mythic scroll to screw someone over. So going by that, this Xing is a dead man. At Xing, big shot. Since you're going to die anyway, leave your estate to me. I'll go back to Blue Star and look after your family for you. In the chat channel, there were gloaters, there were those who lamented, but more still were those who wanted to come get a piece of the pie. I glanced at it and blocked all the messages. They'd guessed half right, but they'd never know that this so-called death blessing was, to me, nothing but the finest nourishment. As for those who wanted a piece of my estate, go dream on. I couldn't be bothered with this noise and began the final preparations for the campaign against the Goblin camp. And at this moment, in the territory of the number 2 on the rankings, a golden-haired, blue-eyed little lowly was furrowing her pretty brows, staring blankly at my name. Elizabeth Anna, S-rank troop angel, talent twin, a super genius who started with 2 angels. What a freak. My 2 angels combined can't even match his leveling speed, Anna muttered under her breath. She was far smarter than those idiots in the chat channel. She'd calculated that the trading market resources alone were nowhere near enough to reach level 8. That meant at least half my resources were self-gathered, under the threat of the death blessing, to still gather resources so efficiently that alone spoke of my strength. What angered her even more was that great goblin troop card I'd listed in the trading market. She'd thought my sky-high price meant I wanted to barter, so she'd left more than a dozen comments under the item, and I hadn't replied to a single one. Meanie. Big meanie. Anna stamped her feet in anger, her little face puffing up. Belle, Lay, we have to work faster. That mean is already level 8. Her 2 angels, one named Belle and one named Lay, were watching her helplessly right now, sending noble angels to chop wood and dig, or only this little lord would pull something like that. My lord, the mature, composed Belle spoke softly. Is there any news of the troop card on the trading market? There is. Anna's little face instantly fell. But that meanie won't reply to my messages. As long as there's news, that's good. Belle breathed a sigh of relief and gently patted Anna's head. Don't be too anxious, or the other party will jack up the price. Oh, Anna nodded, saying one thing but meaning another. What she was thinking was that no matter what price that meanie asked, as long as it wasn't too outrageous, she'd definitely buy it. She couldn't let Belle and Lay do hard labor any longer. I had no idea that far away on the other side, a little lowly was muttering at my name. Had I known, I'd have surely cried injustice. The reason I'd blocked the messages was simply that there had been too many heaven-defying buyers earlier trying to get something for nothing. After trying to chat with a few, I'd completely lost patience and just treated everyone as a broke ghost. Still, before setting off to campaign against the goblins, I did need to outfit my new legion with some equipment. The archers especially, having only come with blank hunting bows after class changing, urgently needed an upgrade. I opened the trading market and searched directly for purple quality bows. Soon, a longbow came into view. Whisperer's longbow. Quality, purple. Stats, attack plus 200. Skill, the last whisper. On attack, deals 20% armor penetration. Price, 200,000 gold. Another one listed at a sky-high price waiting for a trade. The bow was good, but a listed price of 200,000 gold was simply absurd. I casually left a comment below it. How are you selling the bow? To my surprise, in under 3 seconds, the other party immediately replied, as if they'd been camping in front of the screen the whole time. only trading for troop cards or equipment of the same tier. All right, add me as a friend and let's talk details. Sure. The other party immediately displayed their ID, Elizabeth Anna. I paused, then sent a friend request. On the other side, Anna, seeing my friend request, was dumbfounded. What's going on? I begged to buy his stuff and he ignored me. And now he comes running to buy mine? Is this guy sick in the head? She fumed indignantly, but thinking of her two angels still doing hard labor, she could only swallow her anger and accept the friend request. I want that great goblin troop card of yours. Will you trade? She got straight to the point, already braced for me to demand an exorbitant price. Only then did it click for me. So it was her. The great goblin troop card for this fine purple longbow, a fair trade. I wasn't losing out. Sure, change your requirement and I'll trade directly, I replied readily. Anna clearly hadn't expected me to be so straightforward, not seizing the chance to hike the price. Fumbling, she changed the requirement, and the trade completed in an instant. Looking at the troop card now in hand, her impression of me instantly did a 180-degree turn. He really is a good person? He must not have seen my earlier messages. Out of gratitude, she sent me a heads up. By the way, someone used a myriad world's blessing scroll on you. Did you know? I know now. Thanks for the heads up. I thought that was the end of it, but she sent another message that instantly piqued my interest. I've got some detailed info here about the myriad world's blessing. Want to hear it? I do. Please, tell me more. As it turned out, her family had once had a genius fall to this scroll, so they paid a huge price to pry some secrets from the mouths of powerhouses in other worlds. The essence of the myriad world's blessing was a powerhouse prize pool. Its effects would keep accumulating. The fewer people who used it, the richer the amassed rewards, and correspondingly, the challenge difficulty grew geometrically. I've heard, Anna's messages came one after another, that its drop rate is now close to 100%, but the difficulty has reached an unprecedented level too. There's more than one super-tier monster around the territory. There are even super-tier monster clans. And more dangerous still, besides the surrounding monsters, there's the monster siege. There was once a mechanical race genius who gave it his all and killed the super-tier monster at his gate, only for all the super-tier monsters he'd killed to revive during the level 10 monster siege, bringing a huge horde of underlings that drowned him. Reading this message, I fell into thought. To others, this was despair. Losing even one S-rank troop hurt, and after risking your life to kill super-tier monsters, they'd revive and come at you in a horde during the siege. Who could withstand that? But for me, my farmers were cheap. Losing them didn't hurt, and I could recruit a whole batch more in minutes. How was this a disaster? This was clearly delivering perks to my door. These super-tier monsters, kill them once and they dropped equipment, revive during the siege, and I could kill them again, drop again. What incredibly generous perk monsters. At that thought, my mood turned bright and clear. Thanks for the info. Consider me owing you a favor. If you ever need anything, you can contact me anytime. This myriad world's blessing was, for me, simply a tailor-made opportunity. The info I'd gotten from Anna hadn't worried me. On the contrary, I was even a little eager. My core advantage was auras. Troops were merely the vessel. Farmers were cheap and could be expended infinitely, while the higher the aura level, the stronger the farmers grew. Once I maxed my auras, who'd be outlasting whom was anyone's guess. Meanwhile, the two celebrities on the rankings were both restless because of my existence. Elizabeth Anna's territory. Anna, holding the great goblin troop card she'd just traded for, excitedly toddled on her short little legs to find the two angels who were hauling giant logs. Valet, I bought the troop card. The two angels instantly dropped the timber and beat their wings to fly before Anna. The lively Lay scooped Anna into her arms. Quick, let me see what troop it is. It's the great goblin. Anna struggled out of Lay's hug attack. Filthy greenskin creature. Lay curled her lip, but at the thought of finally not having to do hard labor, she instantly cheered up again. Still, greenskins have their uses. They'd definitely be a great hand at hard labor. Saying this, she solemnly began to pray. The god says, the mission of greenskins is to do hard labor. Anna was speechless. Lay, aren't you a faithless angel? Lay answered as if it were only natural. Yep, so once I'm done praying, it's the god who's exploiting them, nothing to do with me. Watching the great goblin, recruited and now swiftly beginning to haul resources, Anna showed a satisfied smile. But when she looked again at that name perched high atop the rankings, she couldn't help feeling a little deflated. This guy called Chen Xing was just too monstrous. There was no catching up at all. Zhou Hong's territory. Chen Xing. Zhou Hong, the young master of the Tianhong group, stared at the name at the top of the rankings, his face grim. The blame in the chat channel for using a mythic scroll to screw someone over was landing squarely on his Tianhong group's head. Though the mastermind was Zhao Chongpeng, the executors were them, and this blame couldn't be shrugged off. He now regretted it so much his guts had turned green. Had he known, he never should have listened to Zhao Chongpeng's nonsense back then. Had he smoothed things over with Qin Xing, the number one on the rankings now would be him, Zhou Hong. He'd tried using Shun Wei as a bargaining chip, leaving Qin Xing a message wanting to trade for that great goblin card, only for it to sink like a stone into the sea. Missing out on fortune for no reason, and making a mortal enemy on top of it. What a massive loss. Zhou Hong ground his teeth, and could only console himself. At least he's doomed to die this time. He turned to look at the juvenile stage black dragon resting on the ground, and snapped angrily. Why'd you stop again? Get back to work. That black dragon, its skull like a skeleton, gave a helpless low growl. My lord, I'm low on energy. I need to rest. Rest? Our 10th place on the rankings is about to slip away, and you still want to rest. Zhou Hong started painting pie in the sky. Once we get the reward, I'll recruit you a companion. Then you'll have all the time in the world to rest. The black dragon didn't buy it, but as a troop, it could only obey commands. It silently crawled back up, shaking its head inwardly. This lord, plenty ruthless, short on brains. I naturally had no idea what these people were thinking. As for Zhou Hong's haughty message, I'd seen it. That tone, as if bestowing a favor, had gotten him added to my enemy list on the spot. Tianhong Group, Zhou Hong. Just wait. The moment I catch a chance, I'll surely let you know what true despair means. Now, it was time to settle the first account. I spent gold again, expanding the number of shield soldiers to 80. 80 shield soldiers, 20 warriors, 100 archers. A 200-strong combat legion, fully equipped and ready to move. Whole army attack. At my command, the great army marched mightily toward the depths of the forest. The goblin camp was heavily guarded, with sentry towers standing in rows atop the 3-meter-high wooden walls. The moment we drew close, the dull sound of horns rang out, and the arrow towers were instantly packed with great goblin archers. In the past, I'd still have had to worry over how to take the walls. But now, archers, step forward. Fire at will. I couldn't even be bothered to have the shield soldiers provide cover. 100 archers simply stepped onto the open ground and traded fire with the enemies on the arrow towers. Shooting upward from below was normally a disadvantage. But under my aura's boost, the battle turned into a one-sided slaughter. My archers had higher damage, longer range, and came with lifesteal. The great goblin's arrow rain landed on them, dealing less damage than the health they sucked back with a single arrow. Farmer 7 especially, equipped with the Whisperer's longbow, never missed. Every arrow precisely claimed a great goblin's life. In just 2 rounds of exchange, the enemies on the walls had suffered heavy losses, so frightened they cowered behind the battlements, not daring to show their heads. Ding! Congratulations, you've reached level 7 and gained a new aura selection. Option 1, Focus Aura. Option 2, Radiance Aura. Option 3, Power Strike Aura, Rare. My old friend the Focus Aura had appeared again, but this time, my gaze locked onto the Power Strike Aura. Power Strike Aura, Level 1. All friendly ranged units' range increased by 100%. Doubled range meant doubled attack opportunities. For me, with my ranged forces, this was a qualitative leap. Sorry, old friend. I murmured inwardly, and decisively chose the Power Strike Aura. Just then, the goblin camp's gates swung open, and hundreds of great goblin cavalry riding Fongwolves came charging out, rushing straight at my archer position. Shield soldiers forward. 80 shield soldiers formed a wall of steel, steadily blocking the front. The great goblin cavalry, riding the momentum of their charge, hacked down at the shield soldiers, dealing enormous damage. Then they froze. An equally enormous reflected damage number instantly popped off the shield soldiers. Then, the health bars above the shield soldiers' heads instantly refilled, and with a backhand strike, they emptied the cavalry's health bars. Some unlucky ones even landed a crit with their strike, and before the shield soldiers could counter, were bounced to death alive by the Thorn Aura. How was this a battle? This was clearly a suicidal charge. The retreat horn sounded again atop the walls. But wanting to run now? Too late. Before archers with doubled range, escape was a mere fantasy. After a few rounds of arrow rain, the hundreds of cavalry all fell, not one making it back to the camp alive. Looks like they want to force me into a decisive battle inside the city. Looking toward the center of the camp, I revealed a cold smile. Since the Goblin King wouldn't come out to meet his death, then I'd go find him myself. The crushing victory of the previous battle had greatly boosted my confidence. Under the lifesteal aura's boost, my farmer legion was almost entirely unscathed, with losses not even worth mentioning. I led my army straight through the goblin camp's walls and came to a wide-open central plaza. The stage for the decisive battle was set. At the plaza's center, dozens of goblin guards clad in fine armor and wielding cold gleaming weapons stood like statues. Compared to them, the earlier great goblin cavalry were mere rabble. Behind them stood a dozen-odd goblin priests robed in spellcaster garb, the tops of their staves set with egg-sized mana crystals glinting with a dangerous light. And at the center of all the goblins, a colossal creature sat enthroned, the Goblin King. His frame was enormous, like a mountain of flesh, 3 meters tall, even-seated, 2 huge tusks jutting hideously from the corners of his mouth. He seemed not to have noticed my arrival, gnawing at a leg bone of some unidentified creature as if no one were around, bits of flesh and blood spraying everywhere. So he's brought out his whole family fortune. I understood in my heart. As long as I wiped them out, this goblin camp would be utterly finished. Out of caution, I cast a scout spell at them. Goblin Guard, Elite. Goblin Elite Priest, Elite. Wow, the elites are all clustered together. I clicked my tongue inwardly. Elsewhere, a single elite monster was enough to hold down a region. Yet here they popped up like cabbages, dozens at once. The priest's skill lists were frighteningly long, but what truly gave me pause was one skill the guards had: live and die together. Life link, damage sharing. Dozens of elite monsters shared their health, with a dozen-odd priest healers behind them. This combination really was tricky. Still, as long as my archer's output was high enough to exceed their total healing, this skill would instead accelerate their collective death. Having scouted the small fry, I turned my gaze to that mountain of flesh. Goblin King. Level, 15. Tier, Monarch. Stats. Skills. Assessment. The natural-born king of the goblin race. Though exiled, his strength is by no means to be underestimated. A string of question marks. Monarch tier. A super tier monster 1 grade above chieftain tier, and his level was more than double mine. Prepared as I was, I couldn't help feeling a trace of pressure. But only a trace. If I could beat him, I'd wipe him out in one push. If I couldn't, I'd retreat and rally more troops. My farmers recruited at 110 gold each, and just fighting the cavalry earlier had dropped over 100 pieces of equipment. The money from selling them was enough to raise another several hundred-strong army. Grind a monarch boss to death with human wave tactics? That trade was worth it. I was just calculating whether to strike first when that Goblin King suddenly made a move. He violently flipped over the stone table before him, flesh and blood flying. He yanked a massive spiked club from the ground, pointed it straight at me, and roared sternly in fluent human common tongue. "Lowly humans, how dare you offend the royal family? Now, kneel before your king." With this roar, a debuff instantly shrouded my legion. You've received the king's rebuke. The level gap is too great, all stats reduced by 20%. Truly a monarch tier boss. One roar could cripple an ordinary lord's every troop. Too bad my farmers didn't make their living off base stats. In the instant I was thinking, and the instant the Goblin King erupted, the sneak attack order I'd given long ago took effect. The king's sudden outburst had not only made me pause, it had caught his guards off guard too. Just as they were stunned by their own boss's authority, my 100 archers' arrow rain had already come whistling in. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Without the live and die together link, these so-called elite guards were pitifully fragile before my archers. After one arrow rain, over a dozen guards fell wailing to the ground on the spot. Trash. The Goblin King coldly glanced at the surviving guards, clearly extremely displeased with their performance. Rebuked by the king, the remaining guards showed shame and fury on their faces and hurriedly roared as they activated live and die together. Invisible red chains linked them tightly together, and at the same time, the priests in the rear began frantically layering all sorts of buff spells on them. I seized the chance to have the archers loose another volley, and sure enough, under the dual effect of the life link and priest healing, the damage was shared to the limit with little effect. Looking at this goblin legion before me, now fully unified and at full status, I knew the real hard fight was about to begin. Whether I could take this camp came down to this battle. I knew this was a hard fight, and so did the Goblin King. Blocked at his own doorstep, another loss meant the extermination of his race. For the king, the surviving goblin guards roared, and carrying the humiliation of the sneak attack, charged straight at my archer position. At the same time, the priests in the rear began chanting spells, preparing to retaliate. But they thought it too simple. Upon finding that attacking the guards under live and die together had little effect, my archers immediately turned their arrowheads, locking their targets onto the fragile priests in the back row. What? The priests paled with shock. By all logic, standing on the high altar, they enjoyed a range advantage, and my archers couldn't possibly reach them. But they didn't know that my archers never played by the rules. Under the Power Strike Aura's boost, the doubled range meant the altar was no longer a safe zone. 100 sharp arrows cut through the sky, descending like the gods of death, precisely blanketing the priest position. How could these cloth armor classes be as thick-skinned as the guards? One arrow rain, and more than half the priests fell instantly. The few survivors barely clung to life only thanks to shields they'd quick-wittedly thrown up on themselves. Damn it! Seeing this, the Goblin King could no longer stand by and watch. Dead guards could be recruited again, but training a priest was time and effort-consuming, the very foundation for rebuilding his camp. His mountain-like body suddenly sprang up from the throne, his legs bursting with power utterly at odds with his size, leaping over 10 meters and crashing heavily to the ground. Boom! The ground cracked, dust billowing up. His massive body showed not the slightest clumsiness. In a few strides he overtook the charging guards, and like an out-of-control heavy truck, brazenly smashed into my shield soldier formation. All of you, dot! The Goblin King roared, the giant spiked club in his hands whistling as it tore the air, smashing down violently. My prized shield soldier line, which I'd taken such pride in, was as fragile as straw before him. One swing sent several flying, but in the instant the shield soldiers flew off, the thorn aura activated. Enormous reflected damage numbers popped off the king's head, and the gravely wounded shield soldiers, before they'd even hit the ground, recovered most of their health thanks to the lifesteal aura. Reflection: the Goblin King noticed the wounds on his own body, but paid them no mind. He wanted to see whether my reflection was faster or his killing. A tiger among a flock of sheep. The Goblin King's massive body barreled about within the shield soldier formation. The enormous gap in level and stats rendered the shield soldier's control skills utterly useless. Had it not been for the two auras holding things up, my front line would likely have been utterly torn apart in a single exchange. Super-tier monsters are this strong? My brows knit tightly. The shield soldiers could still tank, but the formation had been thrown into chaos. Once he broke through and reached the archers in the back, the consequences would be dire. Archers didn't have the shield soldiers' high defense, and the thorn aura's reflection factored in armor. They simply couldn't withstand a few of the king's attacks. I got a bit cocky. I admitted I'd underestimated a monarch-tier boss's might. Fortunately, the one skill point I'd gained from leveling earlier was still unused. Without hesitation, I immediately put it into the Thorn Aura. Thorn Aura, Level 2. Reflect 200% of physical damage taken. Reflection doubled. Now, when the king hit me for 100, he'd take 200 himself. Even with defense reduction, the reflected damage was enough to exceed his own attack. As long as damage stayed even, the lifesteal aura could instantly refill the health bar. Warriors ready. The moment he shows signs of breaking through, intercept with a charge. I commanded calmly. The more the Goblin King killed, the more something felt off. He felt like he was slaughtering everything in sight, yet the enemies around him seemed not to have decreased at all. And these ants' counterattacks were getting more and more painful, from utterly negligible at first to now like a small knife cutting flesh. He wanted to charge out, but 80 shield soldiers clung to him like sticky candy. Every time he found a sliver of hope for a breakthrough, the waiting warriors would launch a charge. Though they couldn't knock him back, they could make him pause for a moment. And that one moment was enough for the shield soldiers' encirclement to close again. You damned ants. Unable to break through for so long, the Goblin King flew into a total rage. Recklessly, he raised the spiked club and smashed it down at the ground with all his might. Karum. A tremendous crash, and a terrifying huge crater was smashed into the ground. The dozens of shield soldiers nearest him, before they could even trigger reflection, were instantly pounded into meat paste by this world-ending blow. You've angered me. Standing at the center of the crater, the Goblin King's form actually began to shrink. The once bloated mountain of flesh collapsed inward, becoming a terrifying greenskin man, his whole body knotted with muscle, far more explosive. Phase 2. You'll all die. The words hadn't finished when his figure instantly vanished from where he stood. The next moment, a shield soldier was viciously struck flying. My heart jumped, but then I noticed the shield soldier who'd been knocked away, seemed not to have taken much damage? No, he simply hadn't taken much damage. The Goblin King's Phase 2 seemed to have sacrificed absolute power in exchange for extreme speed. But the thing was, the one thing my farmers feared least was a paper cut. No matter how fast your speed, could it outpace my aura's reflection? The Goblin King at this point had clearly lost his IQ. Seeing that his attacks couldn't one-shot these ants, he obstinately believed it must be that his attack power still wasn't enough. Not strong enough. Not strong enough. He muttered frantically to himself, a red blood mist beginning to rise from his body. This was a life-burning berserk skill, greatly boosting speed and damage. But his own defense and the damage he took also surged sharply. His figure was so fast I could barely track it, only able to see shield soldiers being knocked flying one after another. But under the Thorn Aura's effect, the faster he attacked, the faster his own health dropped. Add to that the defense reduction from the berserk skill, and his health bar was plummeting madly at a rate visible to the naked eye. Before long, amid his own ceaseless frenzied attacks, the Goblin King's health finally couldn't hold out. Amid the Goblin King's berserk assault, he reflected himself to death, alive. Mercifully, he didn't transform again. Congratulations, you've killed the Monarch tier monster Goblin King. Gained 1,000 experience, 5,000 gold. Congratulations, you've obtained equipment. Destroyer's Spiked Club, orange. Blood Shadow Ring, orange. King's Crown, orange. Congratulations, you've obtained treasures. Greedy Stomach, Incomplete Stone of Inheritance. Congratulations, you've obtained a skill. Blood Fury Berserk, epic. Congratulations, you've obtained blueprints. Spirit Field X3, Warehouse X1, Energy Pool X1. Congratulations, you've obtained special rewards. 3 skill points, 10 free stat points. Looking at the long string of system prompts before me, I let out a long breath. This battle had been won by luck. I'd severely underestimated a super-tier monster's strength. This Goblin King's combat power was absurdly strong. My Farmer Legion was more than enough to thrash any S-rank troop, yet before him, they had no power to fight back. Had the Thorn Aura and Lifesteal Aura combination not been so heaven-defying, I likely wouldn't have even had a chance to flee today. I even suspected whether this Goblin King's strength had already exceeded the scope of a super-tier monster. But when I saw his dropped items, all these doubts were flung to the back of my mind. Truly a Monarch tier boss, these drops were simply outrageous. 3 orange pieces. Destroyer's Spiked Club, orange. Stats, Strength plus 500, Constitution plus 200. Skill, Power of Destruction. Attacks ignore the enemy's tenacity. Assessment, a battlefield killing machine. 500 points of strength. This wasn't a weapon. This was practically a living S-rank troop. No wonder my shield soldiers were like paper before him. It turned out they'd been countered by this power of destruction. Blood Shadow Ring, orange. Stats, Agility plus 300. Skill, Blood Shadow. The lower the health, the faster the movement speed. Assessment, for a desperate last stand, or for running away. This ring was nice. For me, it had most likely become a runaway divine ring. A situation dire enough to push me to half health definitely wasn't one I could tough out, and fleeing would be the best policy. King's Crown, orange. Stats, all stats plus 100. Assessment, orange because it was worn on the king's head. Unremarkable, but its strength lay in being well-rounded. Having looked over the equipment, I opened up the treasure attributes. Greedy Stomach. Effect, devouring food increases stats, allowing an instant burst, but consumes sanity. Assessment, from a legendary fiend, stolen away by the Goblin King. So that was it. The king's Phase 1 mountain of flesh form had been devoured into being by this treasure. But that reduces sanity, negative effect made me keep a respectful distance. Incomplete Stone of Inheritance. Assessment, originally the mythic tier inheritance stone of an orc kingdom. The king knocked off a piece and forcibly gained power by sacrificing his own abilities, but was consequently placed on the joint wanted list of 2 great kingdoms. No wonder the king was so strong. Turned out he'd popped a mythic tier cheat and paid the price of being hunted for it. This thing was a chicken rib to me. Sacrifice auras for power. I'd have to be sick in the head to do that. Next was the skill book. Blood Fury Berserk, epic. Effect, sacrifice health, defense, and sanity to gain unlimited speed. The king's Phase 2 Mad Dog mode came from this. Very strong, but likewise an IQ-lowering skill. To me it was garbage. I'd toss it in the trading market later to swindle someone. Having looked over these equipment and skills, what remained was the blueprints I'd been most looking forward to. Especially that last one. Energy Pool, Special Structure. Effect, Let's troops achieve rapid growth. Build requirements. Territory level 5, 5,000 each of basic resources and gold, 10 energy stones, 1 source crystal. The value of this blueprint outstripped all 3 orange pieces combined. All S-rank and above troops started in a juvenile stage and normally needed to reach around level 50 to grow into their complete form. And the energy pool could shorten this process to level 20. This was a divine object all top-tier lords dreamed of. If structures had tiers, it would be at least orange, or you could even call it quasi-mythic tier. Too bad no one could afford it right now. Still, once I got back to Blue Star and listed it on the trading market at a sky-high price, it'd surely give those top-tier lords a little bit of motivation to strive. I roughly understood now why the Goblin King was so strong. He was too rich. The treasures he'd stolen from the kingdom, not one was below orange. And that still wasn't all. I had the archers and warriors clear out the camp's remnants while I myself, with the shield soldiers, walked into the king's council hall. Sure enough, in the deepest room, I found a dark gold treasure chest. Congratulations, you've obtained Town Portal Scroll X3, Blink Belt X1, Wine Cellar Blueprint X1, Rum Recipe X1, Energy Stone X10, Source Crystal X10. Another big wave of gains. The Town Portal Scroll was a top-tier life-saving artifact, priceless and off-market. The Blink Belt was a life-saving item for short-range teleportation of no small value. The Wine Cellar and Rum Recipe could add temporary stats and would also sell for a good price. And the energy stones and source crystals were hard currency ranking above gold, necessities for future structure upgrades. Having tallied all the spoils, I was thoroughly satisfied. This trip, I made a killing. The battle at the Goblin Camp, though it had its perils, brought enormous gains. After mopping up all the goblin rabble, my level shot straight up to 8, just one step away from level 9. Killing the Goblin King also rewarded me with an extra 10 free stat points and 3 precious skill points. Free stat points, as usual, I'd hold on to for now. But skill points, this time I was richer than ever before. Adding the 1 point from leveling up, I held a full 4 skill points in hand. Still, before allocating points, I had 2 things to do. First, check the Road of Glory's quest progress. My rush to go take out the Goblin King had, in large part, been for this quest. Road of Glory. Quest 1. Kill a super-tier creature before reaching level 10, completed. Reward. Unlock classes Mage, Assassin, Priest. Unlock hidden class change, extremely low probability. Seeing the reward, my heart stirred. Mage and Assassin were both troops of great strategic value. Though in the early game mages did less damage than archers, in the late game their large area magic was a battlefield harvester. Assassins excelled at scouting and assassination, able to make up for the weakness of my head-on brute force tactics. As for the priest, I glanced at it and withdrew my gaze. With the lifesteal aura, did my legion still need a healer? 1 swing and health was full. Recruiting priests was pure waste of gold. The priest was cast into the cold palace. I went on to look at the new quest. Road of Glory. Quest 2. Kill 10 super-tier monsters of a level no lower than your own. Reward. Special structure small wishing fountain. 10 super-tier monsters. I nearly spat out my saliva. Treating super-tier monsters like cabbages, really. But gripe as I might, the reward was simply too enticing. The small wishing fountain, dubbed the Little God, let you make 1 wish per day, with a high probability of realizing an unreasonable desire. For instance, wishing that the next farmer to class change would become a hidden class. 1 hidden class troop a day? Who could withstand that? I'm in. For the small wishing fountain, I silently began to pray, hoping my myriad world's blessing would deliver and spawn a few dozen more super-tier monsters around me so I could finish the quest sooner. Having dreamed my beautiful dream, I set about the second matter, drawing a new aura. Option 1, Focus Aura. Option 2, Radiance Aura. Option 3, Wisdom Aura. Luck was average this time, no rare aura. But the Wisdom Aura's appearance was just right. Wisdom Aura, level 1. All friendly units' spirit increased tenfold. The spirit stat affected not only spell attack, but also spell resistance. What's more, I just unlocked the mage and needed precisely this aura to prop up their combat power. Focus Aura, next time for sure. I murmured to my old friend inwardly and decisively chose the Wisdom Aura. Next was allocating points. I first used 1 skill point to raise the Wisdom Aura to level 2. Spirit increased 20-fold. The remaining 3 points, I mulled over briefly. The Lifesteal Aura and Thorn Aura were adequate for now, so I'd hold off on those. The heavy strike aura's crits had repeatedly performed marvels against the king. Though the probability was low, it couldn't hold up against my sheer numbers. Add 1 point. Raise it to level 2. Crit damage boosted to 20-fold. The power strike aura was crucial for ranged units. Add another 1 point. Raise it to level 2. Range boosted to triple. This meant my archer's range reached an astonishing 900 meters, comparable to a sniper rifle. The last point I decided to hold on to for now, in case of need. Fully outfitted, I left part of my forces to clean up the battlefield and returned home fully loaded with the main force. Back at the territory, I immediately built all the newly obtained spirit field, warehouse, and wine cellar blueprints. Now, my territory was only 4 short of the 10 extra structures needed to level up. Still, upgrading from level 8 to 9 required 100,000 of each basic resource, plus high-grade iron ore. This enormous gap, relying on my own gathering alone, no telling what year of the monkey it'd take. Looks like I'd still have to count on the leaks in the trading market to put in the effort. At that thought, a mischievous grin curled at the corner of my mouth. I took the energy pool blueprint out of my inventory, marked it with a sky-high price of 10 million gold, and listed it directly on the trading market. At the same time, the Greedy Stomach and the epic skill book Blood Fury Berserk were likewise priced at 10 million and listed alongside. Of course, I didn't expect anyone could afford it right now. What I wanted was precisely that they couldn't afford it. People only strive desperately once they realize they're poor. And to make them realize their poverty, you needed something they craved intensely yet couldn't reach. If they didn't strive, who would I harvest? Now, by listing these divine objects, I was giving everyone a little bit of motivation to strive. To help everyone progress together, I really had racked my brains. After I listed those shop treasures on the trading market, whether the others got more motivated I didn't know, but the entire world channel had indeed been provoked by me. Peng Chuan, holy crap, an energy pool blueprint, orange equipment treasures, an epic skill book. Has the trading market gone insane? Zhao Taiju, did I damn well time travel? It's only day 1. Is this stuff even something that can drop at this stage? Chu Tianming, brothers, you're not seeing wrong. Territory protection ends in 37 hours, which means we've only descended for 11 hours. Duran, my god, this is too crazy. My lord, if you ever pass by my territory, I beg you to say so in advance. Whatever you want, I'll give it. Just please don't kill me. Carrie Evans, none of you fight me for it. That energy pool is mine. Whoever dares fight me, I'll kill them. Duan Wei, you think you're worth jack? A piece of trash who can barely keep his ranking. If you've got the guts, come to the Black Sun Mountains, and I'll beat the crap right out of you. The world channel instantly turned into a scene of the top-ranked big shots cursing each other out. One had the S-rank troop Titan, the other the S-rank troop Hydra, and the two had long formed a grudge over ranking issues. Peng Chuan, what damn big shot. Can't even afford a single piece of equipment, drooling here like the rest of us. And he's worthy of being called a big shot? Pippin, I don't care whether they're big shots or not. The one selling this stuff is absolutely a god. You tell me, is it still that guy called Qin Xing from before? Shuewen, impossible. His forces are all farmers. How could he possibly kill a monster that drops this kind of stuff? It's definitely a super-tier monster. Su Shan, true. And look, right now there's not a single newly added goblin piece of equipment on the trading market. Given his monster-clearing efficiency, that's not normal. Shinjijia. Then could it be that anonymous one? Experts love to hide in the shadows. The World Channel's topic quickly went off the rails, until someone chimed in wistfully. Chu Xiangdong, is there a possibility that he hasn't listed new equipment because the stuff he listed before hasn't sold out yet? The World Channel instantly fell silent. Everyone opened the trading market to check, and sure enough, a huge pile of goblin prefixed equipment was still hanging there. It wasn't that the stuff was bad, it was that everyone's wallets had been squeezed dry. At the thought that these orange pieces were also very likely that man's, everyone was shattered. Shuewen, same lords, how can the gap between people be this huge? Zhao Taiju, I'm off. Going to grind. Orange gear is beyond dreaming, but a blue piece, this daddy has to land one today. Watching the chat channel, Anna, who likewise couldn't afford it, felt the sting too. The energy pool, to her twin angels, was simply a heaven-sent divine object. She leaned toward thinking this stuff was still Qin Xing's. So she directly sent a private message. Anna, Qin Xing, big brother, the orange gear and energy pool blueprint in the trading market, are they yours? Omega. Her attitude was considerably more humble than last time. If she could send voice messages, I had no doubt her voice would already be pitched up to the heavens. Yes, I had no intention of hiding it. What you want to buy? Anna, I can't afford it. Underscore. Proof that I'd overthought it again. Starting with two S-rank angels, still couldn't conjure orange equipment out of thin air. No worries, trading with other things works too. In light of the intel she'd provided last time, I was willing to give her a chance. As long as the value's roughly equal, the blueprint's yours. Anna, things of roughly equal value. She fell silent for a long while. Just as I thought there was no hope and was about to close the chat window, she suddenly sent a single word. Anna, I've got some. I was instantly intrigued. For her to hesitate this long, the value definitely wasn't low. What is it? Send the stats over. Let me have a look. Enemy. I paused, then caught on, and replied without much grace. What the heck are you dreaming about? Anna, I'm serious. She hurriedly sent over a contract's attributes. Vassal contract. Once signed, Anna will become your most loyal vassal. Where your will points, there my blade shall aim. There are two S-rank angel troops in my territory. Signing me, you absolutely won't lose out. And my grandmother is one of the strongest lords in the empire on which the sun never sets. Once we're back on Blue Star, no one will dare harass you. I just want one energy pool blueprint. Sign me, Chen Xing. Big brother, you'll definitely profit a lot, a lot. Looking at the messages she sent, along with the description of her twin talent, I had to admit, this girl's luck really was good. But the terms she offered held zero appeal for me. Vassal? I was the strongest, I needed no help. In that time, wouldn't recruiting a few more farmers be nicer? Trouble on Blue Star? I cared even less. Worst case, I'd hide back in the Myriad World's battlefield, develop for a few years, then come back out. Whoever came would get their ashes scattered. What's more, this little girl was hiding a scheme. The contract's premise was that I stayed alive. If I died, she'd get a free blueprint. If I didn't die, then she'd have latched onto a god-tier thigh, and being a maid would still be a massive win. Looking at how short her figure was in the messages when she stood alongside the angels, I silently said one thing in my heart. Serves you right. Putting all your scheming into this, no wonder you can't grow tall. I'd originally planned to flatly refuse, but looking at the descriptions of her two S-rank angel troops, a bolder idea suddenly popped into my head. Forget about getting it free. I replied directly. But if you really want it, I can offer a loan service on my end. Anna alone. This little rich girl clearly hadn't caught on. What did a loan mean? Weren't we talking about selling herself? Literally that. I kindly explained. The energy pool blueprint can go to you first. No money, no problem. Put it on account. Once you have money, just pay me back double the blueprint's value. How about it? Isn't that considerate? After sending that, even I felt a little guilty. Borrow one, return two. That was more vicious than a loan shark. But on second thought, what I was lending out was the energy pool. An artifact that could let S-rank troops grow ahead of time. This wasn't a loan. This was angel investment. It was to promote the little rich girl's progress. Anna, return double. Sigma, degree to degree winky face. She was dumbstruck. I could imagine on the other side of the screen, her little face written all over with shock. Earlier she'd thought I was a good person. Now she probably thought my heart had gone black. The energy pool's value was at least equivalent to 3 top-grade orange pieces. Double repayment was 6. This meant that once she signed this contract, for a long stretch of the future she'd have to work as my black slave to pay off the debt. Anna, never mind then. Reluctant as she was, she still resolutely refused. Come on, the repayment method is negotiable. Now it was my turn to get anxious. No one could afford this blueprint in the short term for sure, and rather than let it gather dust in the warehouse, better to invest it in Anna. Her twin angel talent had enormous potential. With the energy pool, her strength would definitely take off. The stronger she got, the faster she'd gather resources. The faster she gathered, the faster I'd harvest. Ahem, the faster I'd collect the debt, wouldn't it? I hurriedly sent a message to bewitch her. Anna, little beauty, this is the energy pool we're talking about. 2 complete form angels. Isn't that worth taking on a little debt? At your age, it's exactly the time to strive. How can you shrink back over this little difficulty? Don't you want to progress? Anna, I don't. Can't pay it back. She was unusually clear-headed. She'd even pulled out the little beauty address, so it seemed she'd already seen through my sinister intent to make her a black slave. I roughly understood her concern, so I threw out my final trump card. Here's the deal. For repayment, I only want equipment, blueprints, and treasures, no resources. What you need yourself, you can use first. What you can't use, then bring to me. The energy stones and source crystals the blueprint requires. I'll give you all of them, so you can build it the moment you get it. No time limit on repayment, pay it off whenever. But one condition, you must prioritize repayment. Any good stuff you get that you can't use, you have to show me first. Only what I don't want can you deal with. As the price for such lenient terms, double repayment becomes triple. How about it? An energy pool you can build the moment you get it. How is this any different from giving it away? This time, it was Anna's turn to be tempted. These terms barely affected her territory's normal development. They just meant that for a long stretch of time, she wouldn't have spare money on hand. But what could be better than an energy pool she could build right away? The price was merely triple repayment, entirely acceptable. Anna, deal. With barely any hesitation, she immediately sent over a new loan contract. Truly a little rich girl, contract scrolls like they cost nothing. This was one of the reasons I was willing to trade with her. Swap her for some broke ghost, and they couldn't even produce the scroll to sign a contract. I took the contract, made a slight modification, and added a clause to the breach terms. If in breach, automatically send one's own territory coordinates. If she dared welsh on the debt, I'd go straight to her door and clear her out, person and nest together. Anna had no objection to this and cheerfully signed. The trade complete, I sent over the energy pool blueprint along with the required materials. Looking at the blueprint now in hand, Anna's mood must have been complicated. She'd originally wanted to sell herself to latch onto a thigh, only for me to flip it around and turn her into a working stiff saddled with an enormous debt. Triple repayment was outrageous, but she also understood that at this stage, selling an energy pool on terms this lenient, forget triple, even tenfold would have people scrambling for it. Anna, sigh. Originally you owed me a favor, and now it's turned into me owing you a big favor. Looks like I'll have to work hard laboring for you. Chin Shing big brother from now on. So sad. Oh, she said, sad, out loud. But I'd bet that as she looked at the blueprint, the corners of her mouth turned up harder to hold down than an AK's recoil. With the trade with Anna settled, night fell in turn. Night on the myriad world's battlefield was thick with fog, visibility under 10 meters. For safety, I recalled the wood-cutting farmers, but the mining didn't stop. Deep in the mine shafts, the fog had no effect. I sent the old farmers who'd fought all day back to rest, and dispatched the 100-plus newly summoned farmers to the mining district. Under the various auras boost, their gathering efficiency was unmatched. I reckoned that at most in one night, I could gather up the basic resources needed to reach level 9. Cradling wonderful hopes for the future, I sank into a deep sleep. However, before long, a burst of urgent alarms jolted me awake from my dreams. Your farmer has died in battle. Your farmer has died in battle. Your farmer has died in battle. What's going on? I jolted awake in terror, staring at the battle report in disbelief. It was just mining. How could anyone die? And 4 dead at once. Even fighting the Goblin King, my losses were no more than this. Even stranger, the battle report had no combat information at all, only a cold death notice. This usually meant an environmental kill, like falling off a cliff. But they were mining inside the mountain's belly. Could they have somehow dug into magma? Any trace of sleepiness was gone. I immediately got up, mustered all my combat troops, and replenished the forces with the new resources. Shield soldiers, 100. Archers, 100. Warriors, 20. Mages, new 50. Assassins, new 30. A deluxe lineup of 300, far exceeding the scale of when I'd subjugated the Goblin King. But facing an unknown strangeness, no amount of caution was too much. I took the chance to glance at the new troops' attributes. The Mage's talent Elemental Affinity boosted spell damage, and the Assassin's talent Shadow Servant lowered their presence, both decent support talents. Their early game damage might be a mere scratch, but it beat nothing. Ready, I led the army along the torchlit path, heading straight for the mine. The moment I entered the mine, I sensed something was off. My farmers mined quickly, but with great order and method. Yet the mine tunnel before me was unusually wide, enough to accommodate 3 carriages side by side. The deeper I went, the larger the space, until finally a huge plaza that seemed to have hollowed out the mountain's belly appeared before me. Burning braziers all around, level ground. This was definitely not the farmer's handiwork. My lord, seeing me, the farmers who'd stayed behind seemed to find their pillar of support and hurriedly came up to greet me. What happened? Where did this plaza come from? How did they die? I threw out a string of questions. My lord, this mine wasn't dug by us. The farmer explained at a rapid clip. It turned out that when they'd dug this far, they'd found this ready-made passage. To improve efficiency, they'd continued deeper along the passage and ended up discovering a vast underground world below. To investigate, a portion of the farmers had crossed a stone bridge, heading toward the underground space on the other side. Just then, a group of kobolds suddenly appeared. Among those kobolds were spellcasters, and seeing they couldn't deal effective damage to my farmers, they immediately changed tactics and turned to attack the stone bridge beneath the farmers' feet. The stone bridge broke with a crack, and several farmers who couldn't retreat in time plunged into the bottomless abyss along with the rubble. I finally understood why there'd been no kill notices. Kobolds again. I frowned. This myriad world's blessing really did permeate everywhere, not even letting me have peace while mining. I was certain there was definitely a super-tier monster among this group of kobolds. But so what? With my current strength, super-tier monsters could be killed all the same. Since they provoked me, then I'd wipe them out. I led the forces down along the passage the kobolds had left, walking for a full 10 minutes, and finally arrived before that broken bridge. The scene before me left me stunned. This was no underground space. This was clearly an underground kingdom. On the other end of the bridge lay a vast, boundless cavern, its dome so high its edge couldn't be seen. The entire mountain's belly seemed to have been completely hollowed out, forming an independent world. The cliffs on either side of the broken bridge were 30 or 40 meters apart, and below was bottomless darkness. To get across, the only way was to build a bridge. I immediately ordered the farmers to haul over several huge logs from the camp. Under the influence of my power strike aura, the orange weapons in their hands were incomparably sharp, shaving wood like mud. Soon, 3 processed giant logs were joined together using a simple mortise and tenon structure, forming a rudimentary beam bridge spanning the abyss. Afterward, the farmers laid planks over the beam bridge, and soon a wide wooden bridge, not sturdy but enough for the forces to pass, was built. Cross the bridge in batches. I gave the order and left archers to guard both ends of the bridge, in case the kobolds came to burn it and cut off our retreat. Everything ready, I stepped onto the wooden bridge, my gaze turned toward that dark and mysterious underground kingdom on the far side of the abyss. Crossing the wooden bridge, a damp, decayed smell hit me in the face. On this side of the stone platform, faintly glowing fungal plants provided a bit of illumination, letting me see clearly the shocking scene lining the path. Corpses of underground creatures hung on wooden stakes, dying in wretched fashion. Clearly, the kobolds here were numerous, and they weren't short on food. Enemies ahead. The assassin walking at the very front sounded the warning. Before the words had fallen, a volley of arrows poured down from the darkness. Clang, clang, clatter. Arrows struck the shield soldiers' great shields, sparks flying. The damage wasn't high, but green poison damage floated up from the shield soldiers who'd been hit. Poisoned arrows, sinister enough. The darkness limited my vision, but my archers weren't affected. Before I could even give the order, they'd already locked onto the enemy's position with their eagle-eye talent, and a volley of arrows whistled out, returning the favor. Unlike the kobolds' tickle-like attacks, my volley dealt damage maxed out. The battle report chimes rang frantically, each heavy strike meaning the end of a life. Mages, illumination. At my command, dozens of orbs of light rose into the air, instantly lighting the entire cavern up as bright as day. Under the light, the kobolds' formation was laid bare. Far from retreating, they actually pushed forward on their own initiative, led by a group of robed kobolds, looking to give us a baptism with their magic. Picking on me for having no mages. I was so angry I laughed. Small fireball, fire at will. At my command, dozens of fist-sized fireballs, trailing tail flames, smashed toward the panic-stricken kobolds. Boom. The fireballs that triggered heavy strike had power comparable to bombs. The kobolds struck were swallowed whole by flames, instantly reduced to charcoal. The fire resistance they took such pride in was as fragile as a sheet of paper before my aura. Fear began to spread among the kobolds. Right after, the second volley of arrows fell, once again harvesting swaths of lives. Vile invader. The kobold kingdom will not let you go. A kobold that looked like a commander let out a final roar and charged fiercely at me. Then, got shot through the throat by an arrow. The battle ended quickly, and I successfully reached level 9. Looking at the new aura options, focus, defense, brilliance, mana regen, vitality, health regen, I chose the brilliance aura without hesitation. Down here where you couldn't see your own hand, continuous illumination was the lifeline. The brilliance aura's tenfold mana regen was enough to make my mage core into never-extinguishing mobile lighthouses. As for the focus aura, I trusted it was already used to it. Having cleaned up the battlefield, we pushed deeper in the direction the kobolds had come from. There were no cities, only tunnels branching out in every direction. This place was a three-dimensional maze the kobolds had forcibly dug out. In the maze, we encountered quite a few kobold miners. These fellows who only knew how to mine had combat power roughly equal to 0. Their only value was contributing experience and equipment. Kobold mining pick, blue mining efficiency plus 50%, 10% chance to produce high-grade ore. Good stuff. Life-type equipment was rare to begin with, and this top-grade attribute was even more of a chance encounter you couldn't seek out. I immediately decided not to rush finding the Kobold Kingdom, and to farm mining picks first. For the next half-day, we went on a killing spree in this maze, reaping several dozen mining picks and intel on a large number of quality ore deposits. Looking at the densely packed markers on the map, my mood was great. I even felt those kobolds looked a bit handsome now. However, the good mood soon vanished without a trace. In the latter half of the maze, the whole vibe changed abruptly. Loosely set falling rocks, camouflaged ground spikes, venom overhead, deep pits underfoot. All sorts of traps emerged endlessly, letting me witness the kobolds' true strength as trap masters. If not for my troops' thick health, letting them take turns treading through the mines, casualties would likely have appeared long ago. I even somewhat regretted not choosing the Vitality Aura. Left with no choice, I put the skill point earned from leveling up into the Life Aura. The 50-fold Constitution boost turned the shield soldiers into human tanks, worthy of the name, forcibly carving a bloody path through the trap formations. Meanwhile, the kobold reinforcements arrived too. They'd gotten smarter, no longer clashing head-on, but using their familiarity with the terrain to hit and run, harassing us to no end. Ranged troops moved forward, assassins scout ahead. My temper flared, and I changed tactics. The moment you spot an enemy, blanket attack. Don't worry about friendly fire. This crude, simple tactic worked wonders. Under the assassin's guidance, our arrow volleys and fireballs could always precisely blanket the kobolds' hiding spots. After a few rounds, the kobolds suffered heavy casualties and finally didn't dare come throw their lives away anymore. With the harassment gone, I stopped dawdling too. Putting away the map, I led the forces to flatten the rest of the maze at top speed and in the most overbearing posture. At the end of the maze, an even more magnificent scene appeared before us. The instant we walked out of the maze, everything opened up. Before us was a vibrant underground world. Tall ferns towered like trees, and in the distance I could even see a winding underground river. If not for the sunless rock strata overhead, I'd almost have thought I'd returned to the surface. And of course, there was that welcome ceremony that had awaited our arrival for a long time. Densely packed kobolds, in ragged formation, surrounded us on all sides. Under the illumination's strong light, this group of creatures accustomed to darkness let out a commotion. Aolo! A furious roar exploded like a thunderclap, and the rioting kobolds instantly froze in place. An abnormally huge kobold walked out of the ranks. It looked more like an upright walking lizard, its whole body covered in tight scales, gripping a frightening giant flail. I knew this wasn't a lizard, but a kobold with an extremely potent dragon bloodline, its form drawing infinitely close to a dragon. Human, you've invaded our world. It swung the flail, smashing a boulder to powder, its voice muffled and vicious. Now, kneel and surrender, and I can pardon your sins. I couldn't be bothered with its nonsense. Surrender? Surrender to kobolds, and I'd probably get to experience what a massacre felt like. I flipped my hand and tossed an investigation at it. Dragon-bodied kobold, Lord. Level 10. Talent, Dragon Blood Activation. Skills, Dragon Blood Frenzy Strike, Dragon Vein Power, Dragon Scale Armor. Assessment, inherited part of a great dragon's power, possesses ultra-high defense and magic resistance, can briefly transform into a half-dragon. A level 10 lord, barely counting as super tier. Sure enough, the Myriad World's blessing never let anyone down. Still, after killing the Goblin King, an enemy of this degree was at most a little bit of trouble. Just as I set my mind at ease, a figure slowly walked out from behind the dragon-bodied kobold. It was a kobold, small and thin, with an aged face, but the pressure it radiated far exceeded the former. Just a bunch of inferior humans. Its tone was contemptuous, its gaze as if looking at ants. Sever their heads and offer them to the dragon god. Another investigation. Dragon Vein Warlock, Lord. Level 10. Talent, Dragon Bloodline. Skills, Arcane Enhancement, Dragon Vein Breath, Great Dragon Transformation. Assessment: a born spellcaster, possesses a half-dragon body, can cast magic without chanting. The heart I'd had hanging finally died. Super tier really did come in clusters. The Dragon Vein Warlock, instant cast magic, both offense and defense in one, was the biggest headache-inducing nightmare for all rookie lords. Had I run into these two before fighting the goblins, the outcome would have been hard to call. But now, well, attack. The dragon-bodied kobold, obeying the warlock's command, was about to launch a charge. However, I was never one to passively take a beating. After confirming there was no third lord, I decisively gave the order. Archers, focus fire on the one with the flail. My order was the opening signal of a battle with zero martial honor. The ultra-long-range volley of arrows instantly tore through the air, dumbfounding the kobold that had just been about to show off its might. What's going on? We hadn't even charged, so how did the arrows come over? The dragon-bodied kobold, given the special treatment, fared the most wretchedly. If not for its sturdy dragon scales, plus that old warlock's lightning-fast reactions instantly casting ranged deflection on it to dodge most of the fatal arrows, this Lord-class monster would likely have been one-shot by my heavy strike aura on the very first exchange. Not dead. I felt slightly regretful. This Dragon Vein Warlock really was crafty and seasoned. It had clamored the fiercest before the battle, yet the moment fighting started it slapped 2 layers of magic shield on itself first thing. This kind of caution carved into its bones was definitely earned through countless brutal beatings. These people's range is strange. The Dragon Vein Warlock instantly spotted the problem. It pointed its staff at the sky. Dispel. The illumination in the sky instantly extinguished, and the world returned to darkness. While they can't see, charge over, the old warlock ordered. Slaughter these inferior humans. The dragon-bodied kobold, nearly one shot earlier, roared and took the lead. The old warlock wasn't idle either. Several instant cast healing spells and sustained health regen buffs landed precisely on the dragon-bodied kobold, and at the end, still not reassured, it topped it off with another range deflection. Proof that the old thing's caution saved its teammate's life. Because, in the darkness, the second volley of arrows came again. My archers had eagle eye, and the dark night meant nothing to them. The precise arrows once again blanketed the dragon-bodied kobold. The ordinary kobolds behind it weren't so lucky. Under the pouring arrow volley, flesh flew everywhere, wretched wails rang without cease, and the charging formation was instantly shattered into disarray. This can't go on. A frown creased the wrinkle-covered face of the Dragon Vein Warlock. It realized that at this attack frequency, by the time they charged up to us, there'd likely be only a commander left standing alone. The Dragon Vein Warlock's reactions were extremely fast. With a casual point, another dispel extinguished the light orbs my mages had just raised. Right after, a large area silence enveloped my mage's position, thoroughly cutting off any possibility of illumination. Rumble, rumble. In the darkness, several earthen walls rose straight from the ground, completely severing both sides' line of sight. "My lord, we can't see," the archers reported. My expression sank. Dispel, silence, earthen walls. This old thing wasn't high level, but its endless combinations of minor spells were disgusting to the extreme. No wonder everyone hated Dragon Vein Warlocks. This was practically an all-purpose jack of all trades. If we can't shoot, then we won't shoot. The anger I'd bottled up in the maze fully erupted now. Shield soldiers, raise torches. Mages, watch the silence duration. The second it ends, light up the sky for me. Assassins, go cut down that old thing. Tangle it up, don't let it cast again. I swiftly issued a string of commands and dispatched the warriors to stand ready to back them up at any moment. I refused to believe that one mage could kite my entire charging force. Waiting in the darkness was especially agonizing. The instant the silence effect vanished, I immediately had the mages spread out their positions and cast illumination simultaneously from 2 spots far apart. The light lit up once more. Heck, got a bit of brains. The Dragon Vein Warlock looked at the 2 widely separated light orbs, clearly finding it tricky too. Its dispel had a limited range and couldn't handle both at once. But it didn't panic, only glanced at the dragon-bodied kobold that was about to charge up to our front. In its view, once they closed in, these archers were nothing but lambs for slaughter. It casually dispelled the earthen walls and topped the dragon-bodied kobold off with a haste. Just then, it seemed to sense something and abruptly cast a reveal image around itself. The figures of a dozen some assassins appeared in the shadows around it. Assassins? The Dragon Vein Warlock showed a trace of disdain. Naive. With a casual wave, a blazing fire dragon roared and lunged at the few nearest assassins. As a Lord-class boss, it was extremely confident in its own damage. However, when the fire dragon dispersed, those assassins' clothes were just a bit scorched black, yet they were completely unharmed. What? This scene thoroughly overturned the Dragon Vein Warlock's understanding. Weren't assassins all fragile? How could they possibly tank my fire dragon head-on? Refusing to believe it, it dropped another fire ring. The assassins charged through the flames, and aside from their clothing tearing, not a scrap of skin fell off their bodies. Something's wrong. The old warlock finally realized that it wasn't just the archers on my forces that were freakish. It didn't dare let the assassins close in anymore, immediately casting Levitate on itself, backing away to open up distance while frantically pouring out attack spells. I had to admit, a Lord-class boss's damage output was terrifying. In just a few seconds, even the assassins under the life aura lost a fair chunk of health, with no chance to retaliate at all. Seeing the situation turn bad, the assassins, per my instructions, prepared to retreat. You still want to run in front of me? The Dragon Vein Warlock gave a cold snort, and countless vines burst from the earth, entangling the assassins' ankles. Right after, the hard ground turned into quicksand, trapping them fast. The exquisite coordination of several minor spells fully displayed its powerful crowd control ability. However, I'd long had a follow-up. Charge. Several warriors had long been on standby, and now, like cannonballs shot from the barrel, they charged straight at the Dragon Vein Warlock. Brainless brutes. The Dragon Vein Warlock, face full of displeasure, casually raised an ice wall to block. Crack. The hard ice wall shattered like glass under the warrior's savage collision. The caught-off-guard Dragon Vein Warlock was knocked into a stagger. Though unhurt, it was extremely humiliating. It pushed the warriors away with a repulsion fire ring, its face full of vexation. Brutes. Brutes. Brainless brutes. The warrior class specialized in one thing. One show of strength overcomes 10 skills. Cast your 1,000 spells all you want, I just charge, close in, and then hack, blow after blow. The Dragon Vein Warlock clearly knew this well. Looking at the several warriors who'd smashed through the ice wall and feared no death, it knew those few trapped assassins couldn't be killed. Because these few brutes were freakish beyond reason too. Before it could even think up a countermeasure, all 20 of my warriors had already pressed in. Charge. The rising and falling charge horns made the Dragon Vein Warlock's scalp go numb. It dodged the first few with exquisite blinks, but was soon slammed hard by a warrior during a skill's recovery frames. The charge damage meant nothing to it, but that huge impact force made it like a roly-poly toy, jolted staggering back and forth by one collision after another, unable to even find a chance to cast. Enough! The Dragon Vein Warlock, enraged into humiliation, blasted everyone back with a repulsion fire ring, and was just about to lose its temper when it heard an even more furious roar come from the battlefield on the other side. It reflexively looked over, and there, plainly, was a familiar figure. The dragon-bodied kobold, having already activated its dragon bloodline, transformed into half-dragon form. How can this be? The old warlock was full of confusion. How long had the battle even been going? I gave it so many buffs. How had it reached the point of needing its ultimate move? Was this fellow this useless now? It didn't know that the dragon-bodied kobold's plight at this moment was even more stifling than its own. The dragon-bodied kobold that charged into my battle formation had thought it would be a massacre. The result that greeted it was a solid, thorough shield bash. Bam! The huge force brought its prepared string of thrusts to an abrupt halt. It looked at the surrounding shield soldiers somewhat blankly. This bunch holding shields, how is their strength greater than mine? In the moment it was stunned, the shield soldiers around it swarmed in, the shields in their hands like free-of-charge slaps, smacking it all over its head and face. The dragon scale's defense was high, but it couldn't withstand the occasionally triggered heavy strike. 20-fold attack power, even a true dragon coming couldn't take it. In a single exchange, the dragon-bodied kobold's already unsatisfactory health bar instantly bottomed out. Beaten into a corner, it let out a roar, its dragon might cowing the surrounding shield soldiers, and immediately activated Dragon Blood Frenzy Strike. The flail in its hand welled up with bloodlight, smashing hard at the immobilized shield soldiers, trying to life-steal to sustain itself. A few muffled thuds, and it successfully drained a large amount of health. Then, its health bar got even lower. All of my shield soldiers were empowered with the Tier 2 Thorn Aura. The damage it dealt was returned double. That little bit of health it drained, compared to the reflected damage, was simply not worth mentioning. One round of maneuvers, and it nearly beat itself to death. The dragon-bodied kobold fell into utter terror. This bunch of humans, just what kind of monsters were they? It could care about nothing else anymore, and fully activated its dragon bloodline. Its form swelled to 3 meters, wings sprouted from its back, and its health recovered more than half. It abruptly rose into the air, spewing scorching dragon breath at the ground. However, it forgot that transforming clears all buffs, including the ranged deflection the Dragon Vein Warlock had cast on it. For my archers, a target flying in the air without moving was simply the best gift. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dozens of sharp arrows whistled in, not one missing. The arrows that triggered heavy strike blasted blood holes open all over its body. Amid its screams, it panicked and tried to fly back to the Dragon Vein Warlock's side. But how could my archers possibly give it the chance? Second volley, third volley, fourth volley. The dragon-bodied form's defense was indeed astonishing, forcibly enduring 4 rounds of focused fire. But the price was that it got shot into a hedgehog, and finally couldn't even maintain the transformation, plummeting from the air with a scream. With the dragon-bodied kobold dead, the frontal battlefield held no more threats. I immediately mustered all my forces and surrounded the Dragon Vein Warlock on all sides. I'd like to see whether your skills are many, or my people are many. Looking at the dark mass of troops closing in, the Dragon Vein Warlock knew the situation was lost. It was tangled up tight by the warriors, utterly unable to break free. It finally understood that what it faced was a group of monsters more boss than a boss. In despair, it played its final trump card too, transforming into a young red dragon. Dragon Tongue magic, enhanced dragon breath. The power was indeed astonishing. But it couldn't cast instantly, and no matter how high the damage, it couldn't one-shot any of my units. Seeing it keep flying in the sky, I simply pulled back all the melee, leaving only archers to trade blows with it. For every Dragon Tongue spell it cast, my archers could loose 3 rounds of arrow volleys. As long as one arrow hit, the lifesteal aura could instantly restore full health. This was an attrition battle with no suspense whatsoever. In the end, after 13 farmers died in battle, I forcibly wore this counterfeit red dragon to death up in the sky. With the Lord dead, the remaining kobolds were nothing but a disorganized rabble. After a simple mop-up, aside from the few who slipped away seizing the chance, all the rest turned into my experience. My experience instantly climbed to level 9, 840/2340. If these small mobs hadn't been too low level, I could probably have shot straight to level 10. Still, these small mobs were stingy on experience, but extremely generous on equipment. Over 300 kobolds dropped over 400 pieces of gear. The Myriad World's Blessings effect was just this unreasonable. Others fought to the death and could barely get a single piece of gear, while over here I had so much it caused visual fatigue. Sigh, it really was too worrisome. I struggled to press down the corners of my mouth that were about to grin up to my ears. This bit of small change was nothing. The real big haul was still to come. I first looked at the dragon-bodied kobold's drops. 2 orange, 1 purple, plus a pile of blueprints. Bloodstained Flail, orange strength plus 300, constitution plus 100. Skills, Dragon's Power, attributes doubled, Bloodthirst Pact, kill to lifesteal. Dragon Scale Armor, orange constitution plus 300, strength plus 100. Skills, Dragon Scale Protection, chance to reduce damage. Dragon Might, suppress the weak. Noble's Ring, purple all attributes plus 50. Nice, worthy of Dragonkin. The stuff it dropped was hardcore. Top grade orange gear with double affixes. Just these 2 pieces were worth far more than the earlier Goblin King. Not to mention there were also Spirit Field Blueprint X3, Smelting Plant Blueprint X1, a Kobold Miner Troop card, and 10 Source Crystals. Especially that Kobold Miner card. This race was born to be mining experts. When it came to mining, my farmers weren't even fit to fetch their shoes. This value even exceeded a B-rank combat troop card. Brother Dog, farewell. I silently gave thanks in my heart, wishing I could pull it back up and kill it again. Next, I opened the Dragon Vein Warlock's drops full of anticipation. Even Brother Dog had been this generous, so you, a dignified warlock, surely couldn't be even more of a letdown than it, could you? Holy crap, 3 orange 1 purple. A pleasant surprise right off the bat. And when I saw the attributes of the first piece of gear, I was utterly stunned. Rapid Speaker's Staff, orange. Attributes, Spirit plus 400. Skills: rapid casting, cast champ minus 20%, seamless chaining, next spells champ minus 30%. Assessment: want to experience the feeling of being a turret? Congratulations, but as nice as being a turret is, watch your mana. I was instantly so shocked I couldn't be bothered to look at the other gear. Dual chant reduction. This was an attribute an orange piece could have. This nearly cut a mage's chant time in half. What did that mean? It meant a mage could deal double or even more damage in the same amount of time. It meant a mage's skill combos would become incomparably smooth. Why were Dragonvein Warlocks so hard to deal with? Wasn't it exactly because they instant cast low-tier spells? And this staff turned every mage into a little Dragonvein Warlock. If this thing were a bit higher level, I wouldn't trade it even for an artifact. I decisively put it away. This thing absolutely could not be sold, otherwise it would be equivalent to personally creating a turret mage enemy. As for letting my own mages use it, we'd talk about that after they hit level 10 and change jobs. On the strength of this one piece of gear alone, the Dragonvein Warlocks standing in my heart had thoroughly surpassed Brother Dog. Suppressing my excitement, I continued reading. Dragon Scale Robe, Orange Spirit plus 200, Constitution plus 200. Skills: Spell Affinity, Spell Damage plus 10%, Dragon Scale Protection, Chance to reduce damage. Ring of Wisdom, Orange Spirit plus 300. Skill: Mana Mastery, Mana Cost minus 10%. Two more top-grade pieces. But one thing caught my attention. The descriptions of both these Dragon Scale items mentioned scales shed from a great dragon. A Kobold Kingdom, where would it get so many great dragon scales? And recalling what the Dragonvein Warlock had said earlier about offering to the dragon god. Damn it, this ghastly place. There wouldn't really be a dragon, would there? I shook my head, pressing down this ominous premonition, and looked at the final blueprints. 3 more Spirit Field blueprints, plus a minecart blueprint, a mine track blueprint, and 100 dragon blood spirit rice seeds. Now I really was going to start a farm. And the appearance of the mine cart and mine track let me see the possibility of realizing automated mining. Having gathered up the spoils, I didn't continue deeper. These 2 lords were just the vanguard. Deep within the Kobold Kingdom, there was still a mysterious dragon god. I got fierce about it, planning to return to my territory first, max out my population, and directly recruit a full 800. If houses weren't enough, use farmhouses. If food wasn't enough, go sweep the trade market. Any problem money could solve wasn't a problem. First pull up my force size, and next time I came back, I'd like to see whether their dragon god was mightier or my human wave was stronger. By the time I got back to my territory, it was already the small hours. I didn't rush to pump out troops. I'd fought all night, and there was no need to stay up more grinding kobolds. Even if the sky fella could wait until I'd slept. Before sleeping, I habitually glanced at the trade market and found that the gear I'd listed earlier actually hadn't sold out yet. I felt a bit disappointed. This batch of lords was no good. They couldn't even digest a mere 100-some pieces of gear, so lacking in fighting spirit. While I lamented, I casually restocked a few dozen more pieces of gear, rounding out the quantity I was selling to a clean 100. Then I started sweeping up goods. Every food item that wasn't too outrageously priced, I bought it all, instantly clearing out several sellers' inventory. Anyway, my territory's population would keep growing, so I'd stockpile a small half of a warehouse first. Having done all this, I posted high-price wanna-buy notices for all kinds of seeds in both the trade market and the chat channel. Holy crap, a living big shot. Has the big shot already started farming? I'm still surviving in the wilderness. Big shot, I've got some ordinary corn seeds here, want them? As number 1 on both rankings, my appearance instantly detonated the channel. Of course, aside from the fawning, there was no shortage of sour talk and inexplicable threats. Just a dumbass who used the myriad world's blessing, wait to die. About to die and still selling gear this expensive, blacker-hearted than a capitalist. I couldn't be bothered to waste words with them and blacklisted them one by one, casually setting the blacklist so they couldn't buy my goods. Then I separately replied to that bro with the corn seeds, telling him to list it on the market and I'd snap it up directly. Just as I was about to close the channel and sleep, Anna's message popped up. Brother Chinxing, why aren't you asleep yet? I owe too much debt. Can't sleep, can only stay up grinding resources. Even through the screen, I could feel that resentment of hers. I was just about to ask how she got out at night. Then it clicked. An angel's holy light could ignore the night of the myriad world's battlefield. Worthy of an S-rank troop, even grinding resources was more efficient than others. I admit, I was envious. All right, so what did you need from me? You're not here to show off, are you? I made a joke. No, I saw you were buying things, brother, and wanted to ask if you wanted this. She then sent over the attributes of a blueprint. Hero's Spirit Altar Blueprint. Effect. Can consume the same resources as when recruiting to resurrect a troop killed in battle. Construction requirements. Barracks. Basic resources x 10,000. Gold x 10,000. Holy Light Stone x1. Source Crystal x1. My sleepiness instantly vanished. To others, this thing might just be an expensive insurance policy in the early game, since resurrection and re-recruitment cost the same resources. But to me, this was simply a godly skill. Once my farmers died in battle after their job change, re-recruiting and rechanging jobs cost 110 gold. But with this altar, I only needed to spend the 10 gold of recruiting a farmer to directly resurrect a job-changed powerhouse troop. Rounding up, this practically saved 100 million. I want it. This counts as one orange piece for you. Do you have a holy lightstone? If so, sell it to me together. I replied without hesitation. The holy lightstone dropped together with the blueprint. Let's just count it as a set. No charge. Anna was very forthright, directly mailing the stuff over, refusing my intent to pay with action. I laughed. Dealing with people who repaid kindness was just comfortable. In return, I sent her the attributes of the just-obtained Kobold Minor Troop card. Want this? Can't afford it. Anna replied with 3 characters, attached with a face streaming with tears expression. I know you can't afford it. Put it on the tab first. I casually sent the troop card over too. This one's not expensive, just pay it off with random stuff later. I couldn't even be bothered to use a contract. She still owed me a debt of 8 orange pieces of gear, so no fear she'd welch. Seeing how hard she worked to repay her debts, she seemed more like a quality long-term business partner. Anna hesitated a moment, but still accepted it. With so much debt owed, she seemed to figure that more lice didn't make her itch anymore. Just as she was about to say a few more words of thanks, over on my end, I'd already closed the chat window and dropped straight to sleep. Meanwhile, on the other side, in Anna's territory, a white figure descended from the sky, landing beside the corpse of a huge, earth-walking dragon. My lord, why aren't you asleep yet? The angel Rael asked curiously, shouldering the spoils. Right after, her sister Belle flew back from the distance too, and seeing Anna still awake, her brow furrowed slightly. My lord, your body needs rest. I just closed a big deal. Anna looked at Chun Xing's crisp, decisive, put it on the tab in the chat log, then glanced at the extra Kobold Minor card in her warehouse, murmuring to herself, Belle, Rael, it seems we've latched onto one incredible thick thigh. Belle's gentle tone, yet Anna heard a flavor of reproach in it, exactly like getting caught by mom for staying up late. She felt guilty for half a second, but the moment she thought of her reason for staying up, she immediately grew righteous. Sister Belle, I gave the hero's spirit altar blueprint to Brother Chun Xing, and he counted it as me repaying 1/9 of my debt. And he gave me another new troop card. She proudly displayed the Kobold Minor troop card. Kobold Minor? Both Rael and Belle's gazes turned a bit odd. The straightforward Rael spoke up first, asking tentatively, My lord, is this a gift for you? As if there'd be such a good thing. Anna shook her head. I didn't charge for the Holy Light Stone, so he probably felt embarrassed and lent me this card on credit first. Oh, that's all right then. Rael let out a breath of relief. I thought he'd taken a fancy to you. In that case, I'd have to prepare early for a territory merger. Question mark. Anna slowly typed out a question mark. Rael, no talking nonsense. Belle stopped her little sister, then said earnestly to Anna, My lord, this Lord Chun Xing draws clear lines between gratitude and grudges, acts on principle, and doesn't take advantage of people. I suggest you try your best to stay on good terms with him from now on. Making friends with this kind of person, you'll never lose out. Belle had another half a sentence she didn't say, but making an enemy of this kind of person, the end would be very miserable. Indeed, Rael deeply agreed, but her reasoning was more direct. Brother Chun Xing gives too much. As long as we can keep up with his pace, our territory can develop at breakneck speed. Why are you calling him brother too? Anna asked, puzzled. Isn't it what you said? On Blue Star, whoever's got money is brother. Rael was self-righteous. He even gave me a troop card. So what's wrong with me calling him brother? Anna was actually left speechless. She sighed, her expression turning serious. Since that's the case, we have to work even harder. Brother Chun Xing has the myriad world's blessing, so the difficulty of the monster siege must be extremely high. We need to pay off the debt before that comes. The more stuff we have, the more hope he has. She'd never once thought of welching on this debt from a fair trade. Quite the opposite. She knew that every trade, the one coming out ahead, was herself. Those items that could greatly boost development speed in the early game were worth far more than they appeared on the surface. It wasn't that Qin didn't understand this. It was only because no one else could afford them that he'd lent them to her at fair prices on credit. This favor, she had to acknowledge. I had no idea there'd actually be someone standing up for me. I slept straight through until past 7, and the attribute boost left me full of energy. After getting up, I glanced at my resources, already enough to level up to 9. I directly upgraded my territory, then came to the barracks and recruited my population cap full in one go. Level 9, 900 population. I kept 200 farmers for logistics, and the remaining 700 people, I changed them all into combat troops. 400 archers, 100 warriors, 100 shield soldiers, 80 mages, 20 assassins, 700 fully armed combat units, arrayed neatly before me. I could even imagine 100 warriors charging at once, 400 archers loosing a single volley, then triggering the heavy strike aura. What an earth-shattering, sky-destroying scene that would be. What damn super-tier monsters. Before my great army, they were nothing but mobile experience packs. Brimming with confidence, after eating breakfast, I first built the hero's spirit altar, thoroughly resolving my worries about the rear. Then, with a grand wave of my hand, I led my massive army of 700, sweeping mightily toward the mine tunnels. This time, I had only one goal: flatten the entire Kobold Kingdom. Unobstructed the whole way, we soon arrived at yesterday's battlefield. The corpses had been dragged off by the farmers to use as fertilizer, leaving only a faint smell of blood. Following the direction the kobolds had come from, we advanced through the darkness for nearly half an hour, and a magnificent stone city appeared plainly before us. Damn, it's a royal city. Looking at those towering city walls, my heart was full of envy. This was a real city, not like the ones we lords unlocked at level 10, just some wooden palisades you could kick over with one foot. I was just fretting over how to besiege the city, since I had no flying troops among my forces, and the mages couldn't conjure up fireballs big enough to blast down city walls. However, to my surprise, that heavy city gate actually opened on its own. A well-equipped kobold army, clustered around several dragonkin kobolds who were obviously leaders, filed out from within the city and set up a formation before me. So it was you ants who killed Eugen and the others? At the head, a most aged kobold warlock elder, its tone full of disdain and confusion, seemed unable to comprehend how its two powerful companions could have died at our hands. Ants. I looked back at my great army and instantly understood. The aura's bonuses couldn't be perceived. In their eyes, my 700-strong force with its messy gear and low levels, compared to their strictly equipped, powerful troop regular army, really was no different from ants. They'd actually voluntarily given up the advantage of their walls out of underestimating the enemy. Far from feeling any anger, I nearly laughed out loud. Looking down on me is great. I was only afraid you'd think highly of me and hide in the city, refusing to come out. When I hacked you to death shortly, I hoped you wouldn't get angry either. Everyone happy, right? Still, those several dragonkin kobolds at the front of the enemy's ranks stirred something in me. For so many dragonkin to appear in one kingdom was far too abnormal. And recalling the dragon scale gear that dropped yesterday, there wouldn't really be a dragon here, would there? A bold idea formed in my mind. I cleared my throat, and in a tone even more arrogant and more dignified than theirs, opened my mouth to proclaim. I come representing the great black dragon king, Neltharion. Yesterday, those two reptiles dared falsely claim there was a dragon god in this place, profaning my lord's name. So, I exercised my lord's power on his behalf and sent them into eternal darkness. My gaze was like lightning, sweeping over each of them. Are you, too, accomplices of those profaners? The moment these words came out, the kobold army instantly fell into an uproar. The great dragon was their eternal faith. A being who claimed to be a dragon king's envoy coming to demand accountability was enough to throw them into disarray. Elder, I told you long ago, don't invoke the dragon god outside, a dragon-bodied kobold complained in panic. Shut up. The kobold elder sharply berated it, its powerful pressure instantly quelling the disturbance. It looked coldly at me. I've never heard of the name Neltharion, much less any lord of black dragons. You bear not the slightest dragon aura, yet dare impersonate a dragon's kin. You are the true profaner. Kill these profaners. The elder gave the order, refusing to give me any further chance to argue. So there really is a dragon. I understood clearly in my heart. Their acting so decisively meant that a dragon was already backing them, so naturally they wouldn't bother with me, an envoy of unknown origin. Still, that was a matter for later. Archers, I couldn't be bothered to waste more words, and directly gave the order. Aim at those few dragonkin. Focus fire. 400 archers instantly drew their bows. Hum, a piercing bowstring hum, and 400 arrows turned into a flood of death, tearing through the darkness, crossing the battlefield in an instant. The Dragonvein warlock on the opposite side reacted extremely fast, instantly raising a magic shield and range deflection spell. But facing such a dense arrow volley, these defenses were like nothing. Thwip, thwip, thwip. Two dragon-bodied kobolds who hadn't had time to transform, without even letting out a single wail, were shot into hedgehogs in the dense arrow volley, dying on the spot. Such violent damage output stunned the surviving dragonkin kobolds dumb. The dragon-scale defense they took such pride in was as fragile as paper before this arrow volley. Transform. Transform now. The elder reacted first, its voice turning shrill with fear. While giving the order, it flashed and slipped into the mage troops behind, roaring hoarsely. All mages, focus fire on their archers. Don't let them loose a second volley. In an instant, four huge half-dragon monsters appeared above the battlefield, terrifying dragon might sweeping over. A true great battle finally erupted. A bunch of fools. Looking at those four enormous, living targets in the sky, the kobold elder cursed in fury. Knowing full well the enemy archers were absurdly strong, they still dared to fly up into the air. Get down here now, it roared, while frantically casting shields on them. But it was already too late. Another volley of arrows whistled in, precisely blanketing those targets. This time, the arrows were even more concentrated. With a single mournful cry, another unlucky wretch in half-dragon form was shot through the body and plummeted from the sky. Charge in. Shrink your size, blend into the army, and charge in. The elder's lips trembled with fury as it issued a final order to the remaining three fools, then paid them no more mind. Now, it had to personally deal with those terrifying archers. In its view, archers with such high attack and such long range must have pitifully fragile defense. As long as it could reach them, they'd collapse at a single touch. Prepare Legion magic, ultra-long-range blaze burst. I'll guide it personally. The elder instantly took over command of the mage legion. It first stacked several shields on itself, then, sparing no cost to its own foundation, cast several soul chains in a row, sharing the mages' lives with the thick-skinned weasel cavalry around them. Boundless magic elements began to gather, and the air of the entire underground world turned scorching hot. Of course I wasn't going to stand there and watch it finish its cast bar. Archers, at that patch of mages, shoot for me. The arrow volleys poured down like a waterfall, wave after wave. However, to my surprise, those fragile mages were oddly able to endure. After 5 straight volleys, by rights even a dragon should have been shot into a sieve, yet the enemy's magic guidance showed not the slightest sign of stopping. What I didn't know was that these 5 volleys nearly scared the soul right out of the kobold elder. The soul chains it cast were powerful skills bestowed by the great dragon at enormous cost. Yet even so, the protective spells it took such pride in only withstood a single volley. Everything after relied on the linked weasel cavalry to share the damage, barely holding on. After 5 rounds of volleys, the entire mage corps and escort cavalry's health had bottomed out. 2 more rounds at most. The elder calculated in its heart, cold sweat streaming. But just then, the magic guidance completed. Feeling the boundless magic power beside it, enough to incinerate all things, a ferocious, savage look appeared on the elder's shriveled old face. Blaze burst. At its sharp shout, hundreds of basin-sized fireballs materialized from thin air, streaking through the darkness like a meteor fire rain, and with the momentum to destroy everything, smashing down toward my archer position. The entire underground world was lit up as bright as day. The spell couldn't be intercepted, and the shield soldiers had no time to fall back to defend. I made a snap decision and issued my final order. Keep shooting. Arrows flew faster than fireballs. As long as this blaze burst didn't one-shot my archers, the lifesteal aura could pull their health right back in an instant. Boom, boom, boom. Unbroken explosions rang out, and my entire archer phalanx was instantly swallowed by a sea of fire. A bunch of damned ants. The kobold elder gazed smugly at that sea of fire. Though its own side had taken another arrow volley, it didn't care in the least. In its view, those archers were as good as dead. However, just as it was about to withdraw its gaze and direct the next wave of attacks. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless arrows tore through the air, actually loosing once more from within that blazing firelight. That sound was like the shrill shriek of the god of death. Under the elder's disbelieving gaze, this final arrow volley landed precisely around it. This became the last straw that broke the camel's back. The kobold mage corps, whose health had already bottomed out, along with the escort cavalry linked by the soul chains, in this baptism, had their lives instantly wiped out, falling in swaths. In an instant, corpses lay everywhere around the elder, leaving it alone, standing dumbstruck in the center of the bodies. How is this possible? It stared vacantly into the distance. The firelight dispersed, and that group of archers actually stood there completely unharmed, not even their gear damaged. How can this be? It murmured to itself, its heart filled with incomprehension and fear. Its prized legion magic, which could even gravely wound an evil eye, yet left these human archers unscathed? Could it be that these people were all dragons in disguise? Just as its mind and spirit were shattering, it saw, among the ranks of the human archers, a hero unit raise the strangely shaped war bow in its hands, aiming at it from afar. The premonition of death instantly seized its heart. It was just about to dodge, but that arrow had already arrived in the blink of an eye, piercing through its skull. Following right after was a sky full of arrows that covered its entire field of vision. The kobold elder hadn't died under the backlash of the soul chains because it had life-saving trump cards. But these trump cards couldn't block the fatal arrow loosed by the hero unit. The arrow loosed from the Whisperer's longbow easily tore through the shield it had hastily raised, and the armor break effect instantly triggered. Right after, the sky full of arrows rained down, drowning this number 2 figure of the kobold kingdom, along with its chance to transform. Before dying, all that remained in its heart was endless despair. Of course, I didn't know its thoughts. I only knew that a dead Dragonvein warlock was the best kind of Dragonvein warlock. Meanwhile, the battlefield had been clearly divided into 3 zones. Melee meat grinder. Those 3 surviving dragon-bodied kobolds, under the Elder's cursing, relied on their high mobility to charge into my battle formation. And then, they were met with the warm hospitality of my 100 warriors. The unbroken chain of charges knocked them staggering back and forth like bowling pins. They instinctively counterattacked, but under the 200% reflect thorn aura, the harder they hit, the faster their own health drained. And my warriors, under the effect of the lifesteal aura, got fuller on health the more they fought. They fell into a dead end where fighting was wrong and not fighting was wrong. Wall of size. Behind them, the main force of the kobold army, especially those impact-heavy weasel cavalry, was launching a do-or-die charge at my defensive line. Then, they slammed into an impregnable wall of bronze and iron formed by 100 shield soldiers. That wasn't a metaphor. It was literal. The huge damage brought by their high-speed charge was returned double under the thorn aura. The weasel cavalry, coming one after another, were like ocean waves crashing into a reef, shattering to bits wave after wave before my shield soldiers' ranks, putting on a spectacular suicide attack. The corpses piling up under the shield soldiers' feet grew higher and higher, even forcing them to step on the bodies and push the battle line forward. Death harvesting ground. The 400 archers who'd finished off the mage corps had finally freed up their hands. They didn't bother with the dragon-bodied kobolds being ganged up on by the warriors, but instead poured their arrow volleys onto the front of the kobold army. If dealing with super-tier monsters still required focused fire, then in dealing with these ordinary units, my archers revealed their true terror. Wherever the arrow volleys reached, kobolds fell in swaths like wheat. This was no longer a battle, but a one-sided massacre. The 3 besieged dragon-bodied kobolds looked back full of hope, but what they saw was this hellish 3-part scene. No rescue was coming for them. When they saw the archers had already begun clearing the frontal battlefield, while the Elder and Mage Corps showed no movement at all, a worst-case possibility surfaced in their minds. The Elder had died too. A bone-chilling cold, along with endless despair, drowned them. Just then, roar. An earth-shaking dragon's cry came from atop the distant royal city walls. A huge shadow appeared on the battlements, and terrifying dragon might instantly swept across the entire battlefield. You are affected by the dragon might emanated by the Kobold King, all attributes reduced by 20%, with a 5% chance of falling into a fear state. This pressure was so real that I got a huge fright, reflexively gripping the town return scroll in my hand. Going up against a true dragon at this stage would be pure suicide. However, the next second, after making out the system prompt clearly, my anxious heart finally settled. Damn it, gave me a scare. I stuffed the town return scroll back into my pack. Turned out it was just a kobold king. Though a monarch-class monster shouldn't be underestimated, as long as it wasn't a true dragon, everything was fine. What monarch or not monarch? Monarchs are exactly what we beat. I immediately adjusted tactics, ordering the mages still providing illumination and the assassins on standby. Mages clear the small fry. Assassins join the siege, take out those 3 super tiers as fast as possible. Prepare to focus fire the king. Once I killed all your troops, when you come down as a lone commander with nothing, what could you even do? I'd still underestimated this kobold king. It didn't go through the city gate, but leapt down from the towering wall. Its huge body slammed into the ground like a cannonball, kicking up a sky full of sand and dust. What tightened my heart even more was that the 3 likewise winged kobolds that leapt down together with it vanished from thin air in the dust. Stealth. There were actually assassins among the kobolds. A chill rose up my spine. Assassins, this class that sacrificed everything for ultimate damage output, were the greatest bane of my force that relied on the Thorn Aura and Lifesteal Aura. As long as their burst could one-shot my units, my aura system would be utterly useless. I couldn't bother with that king anymore, my eyes scanning the battlefield frantically, trying to find those 3 invisible threats. But they were like they'd melted into the darkness, without a trace. An ominous premonition rose in my heart. These assassins, they wouldn't be coming for me, would they? A decapitation tactic? My heart jolted, and I no longer dared to hesitate in the slightest. In an instant, I put all my free attribute points into Constitution, then slammed my only skill point into Life Aura 2. Life Aura, LV6 Constitution Amplification raised to 60x. My Constitution instantly skyrocketed. Having done all this, I still wasn't reassured, and immediately took out the Dragon Scale Armor and Noble's Ring from my inventory and put them on. Though gear attributes didn't receive aura bonuses, these few hundred points of raw Constitution and damage reduction could give me an enormous sense of security. As long as I couldn't be one-shot, I'd win. Meanwhile, on the frontal battlefield, the Kobold King had already launched its attack. It raised the 3-pronged steel trident in its hand, pointed from afar, and roared, "Earth Spike." Countless spikes instantly burst from beneath my shield soldier's position, launching them toward the sky. Right after, before the shield soldiers could land, the king chanted again. Falling rocks, wrath of the earth, earth fire eruption. A string of large area spells turned my shield soldier's position into a scene of natural disaster. If it weren't for those death-defying weasel cavalry still charging, using their lives to heal my shield soldiers, my front row would probably have suffered casualties already. This thing was actually a mage. I threw out Investigate and could only see Kobold King, LV19, Monarch, level 19, just one step away from mid-tier. I immediately gave the order for the archers to abandon the small fry and focus fire the king. Its spell output was too terrifying. However, the very instant I gave the order, a cold glint flashed behind me. A sharp blade extended from the shadows, precisely striking the back of my head. Backstab, ambush strike, weakness break. The perfect combination of an assassin's 3 core skills dealt unimaginable, terrifying damage. My health bar, skyrocketed to the extreme, was instantly emptied by half. But that was as far as it went. The assassin's attack triggered the Thorn Aura. The massive damage it dealt was instantly returned, in double, to its own fragile body. Thwip. This dignified super-tier assassin, before it could even let out a single scream, was forcibly reflected to death by its own damage. Meanwhile, the lifesteal aura triggered, and the health I'd lost instantly refilled. All of this happened in a single instant. The other 2 assassins hidden in the dark hadn't seen at all what happened. They only saw their companion strike, so they followed right after with their own fatal blows. Then, they followed in their companion's footsteps. The same attack, the same double reflect, the same instant sudden death. I hadn't even quite reacted, only feeling myself poked 3 times in the back, and then there were 3 more super-tier boss corpses on the ground. Looking at this bizarre scene, I let out a long breath. It really had to be assassins. Even their way of dying was this unexpected. Luckily, they'd chosen to come assassinate me. If their target had been my archers or mages, the consequences would have been unthinkable. Now, the greatest threat had resolved itself. On the battlefield, the ganged-up dragon-bodied kobolds had also been slain to the last. Though the process had its twists, at last I could free up my hands to properly entertain this lone and friendless king. Facing the focused fire of my archers, the Kobold King had no choice but to stop casting. But it was far more high-end than the earlier Dragonvein Warlock. It didn't go straight to shields, but swung its trident, summoning 3 side-by-side tornadoes in front of itself. The arrow volley shot into them, and were instantly torn to shreds. Then, it unhurriedly slapped on magic shield, shield counter, frost armor, layer upon layer of colorful shields, making it look like a giant neon light. I'd thought it would keep casting while tanking with its shields, but I hadn't expected the ground beneath its feet to suddenly churn as an earth dragon rose up. It stood atop the dragon's head and charged toward my position like it was surfing. A mage, charging into the battlefield? Before I could figure it out, it leapt down from the earth dragon's head, and the shockwave kicked up on landing was even greater than before. Right after, 3 roaring ice dragons burst from the sand and dust, sending the shield soldiers around it flying and freezing them into ice blocks in midair. The ice blocks fell, and before my shield soldiers could recover, scorching pillars of fire suddenly erupted from beneath their feet. Ice and fire, 2 heavens. After one flawless combo, my front row shield soldiers' health instantly bottomed out, and several were even one-shot outright. And the Kobold King still wasn't satisfied. It raised its trident again, kicking up a tornado laced with flames that swept indiscriminately in all directions. Those shield soldiers who'd survived by luck, unable to attack and heal, also had their lives wiped out by this fire tornado. Came prepared, huh? Looking at the dozen-plus shield soldiers who died in an instant, my expression sank. This thing, up on the wall, had clearly seen through my tactics, and had even figured out ways to counter the Thorn Aura and Lifesteal Aura. A boss with brains was just trouble. I took a deep breath, my gaze turning firm. Since I couldn't win by cleverness, then I'd fight it head-on. Everyone, change tactics. To a group, wheel rotation attrition. I organized the warriors, shield soldiers, assassins, and mages into several groups, and began executing shameless guerrilla warfare. Warriors charge to draw attention, shield soldiers taunt to absorb damage, mages harass with small fireballs, assassins ambush when the chance came. After running through one set, turn and flee, never lingering in the fight. The king wanted to give chase? The next group had already charged up to its face, and the crippled groups made straight for the distant pile of kobold small fry, instantly refilling on health via the auras, then coming back to queue up, waiting for the next round of harassment. The true core damage output was still those 400 archers. The moment the king showed even the slightest opening under the harassment, the sky-blanketing arrow volleys would tell it what explosive damage meant. This tactic's whole theme was the many bullying the few. The Kobold King soon fell into the plight of being run ragged. It tried to burst a few times, but each time could one-shot 1 or 2 people at most before its rhythm got interrupted by the death-defying warriors. Its health, under the ceaseless attrition, soon dropped by more than half. Finally, it could bear it no longer. Looking at those ants as annoying as flies, the king's eyes filled with rage and disgust. It abruptly raised its trident overhead, completely abandoning defense, and began chanting a lengthy incantation. A destructive aura began to spread. It was about to unleash its ultimate move. I didn't hesitate in the slightest, and immediately had most of my troops pull back. But at the same time, I left behind a portion of the highest defense shield soldiers and the most mobile warriors to continue dealing damage to it. No matter what skill it unleashed, I had to have a means to respond. The worst outcome was just sacrificing a portion of units. As it chanted, above the entire underground world, a huge dark cloud actually gathered from thin air. Countless bowl-thick lightning dragons rolled and flickered within the dark cloud. After a full half-minute of brewing, the king's skill finally released. In an instant, the lightning lights swimming within the dark cloud, like heaven's punishment, poured down indiscriminately toward all units below, including itself. High-tier magic, endless falling thunder. Seeing that thundercloud, my mind blanked for a moment. This was magic that only a level 50 at minimum mage could cast. This Kobold King, not even level 20, how could it use it? Though this was only a budget version, with weakened damage, no precise control, and that would even strike itself, it was still high-tier magic. I had the archers loose a test volley, and the result was that the arrows were struck into ash the moment they entered the thundercloud's range. Seemed forcing my way and wasn't going to work. I had no doubt the king had the ability to control the thundercloud's movement, Otherwise, did it summon this thing out purely to strike itself? Racing high-tier magic out in the open was courting death. So then, my gaze sharpened, and I directed my troops to target the kobold army not far off. I wasn't going to use them as hostages. From the king's earlier behavior, it showed no mercy killing its own people. My aim was simple: farm experience. My experience bar was nearly full. As long as I killed one more wave, I could level up to 10 and gain a new rare aura. Damn it, we'd reached this step again. Last time fighting the Goblin King, I relied on a level-up lottery draw, and this time fighting the Kobold King, I still relied on a level-up lottery draw. In the end, it was still that my farmer troops weren't strong enough, and the ones I ran into were all these unreasonable, monstrous bosses. If my troops were S-rank angels, then under the aura boost, it'd be impressive if this king even survived a single slap. Still, I had no regrets. How rare were S-rank troop cards? And with their huge population and resource costs, you simply couldn't run a mass troop build. Though my farmers started low, they'd change jobs into professionals, and in theory should have the same class trials and potential for infinite growth as any other professional. Once my farmer army could also keep advancing, I could absolutely stand before the myriad races, point at their noses, and say, "Everyone present is trash." Just as I was pondering, the archers had already stirred up a blood rain of carnage among the kobolds, and my level, along with it, rose. Level raised to LV10. You may choose one of the following 3 rare auras. 1. Endurance Aura, rare. 2. Haste Aura, rare. 3. Resolve Aura, rare. Endurance Aura increases movement speed and attack speed. Well-rounded, but the values aren't high. Haste Aura increases skill haste, roughly equivalent to reducing skill cooldown. A godly skill for mages, but my mages are too weak right now. Resolve Aura increases tenacity, greatly reducing the duration of crowd control and negative states. All 3 auras were powerful, especially the Resolve Aura. It was simply the bane of endless falling thunder. The scariest part of the falling thunder wasn't the direct damage, but the infinitely stacking, electrified vulnerability state. As long as tenacity was high enough, this effect could be greatly weakened, and it could even let my shield soldiers tank the lightning and hack the king to death. But after pondering a moment, I still chose the Endurance Aura. Resolve was good, but it only targeted the current situation. Endurance, on the other hand, was an all-around improvement. Whether in combat or gathering, the boost to movement and attack speed was a permanent gain. Since I could beat it to death whichever I chose, naturally, I'd pick the one with more value for the future. Choose the Endurance Aura. Without holding back in the slightest, I directly added the skill point gained from leveling up onto it. Endurance Aura, LV2. All friendly units' movement speed increased by 200%. Attack rate increased by 100%. Speed doubled. A weakened version high-tier magic. What would it use to chase me? Everyone retreat. We're going to walk the dog. I couldn't tank the falling thunder's damage, so I wouldn't tank it. I'd rely on double movement speed to just kite you. And once your ultimate move's duration ended, watch how I'd come back and deal with you. The Kobold King fell into a dilemma. It had thought I only had 2 roads before me. Either press forward with my whole army and gamble my life charging into the thundercloud, or retreat with everyone and get caught and struck dead by its thundercloud. But it never expected I'd choose a third road. Main force retreats, cannon fodder goes to die. Those few dozen shield soldiers I'd left behind were tanking the falling thunder, persistently smacking their shields into its face. It was currently channeling high-tier magic, unable to move or defend. If it ignored these shield soldiers and chased my main force, then sooner or later it would be beaten to death by these dozens of shield soldiers. But if it wasted its precious ultimate move time on these few shield soldiers, in the end, the instinct to survive won out over reason. It decided to strike these annoying flies dead first. Under its deliberate guidance, the frequency of the lightning striking the shield soldiers surged, the damage stacking layer upon layer under the electrified effect. Just as it seemed the shield soldiers' health bars were about to bottom out, suddenly, they erupted. The shields in those shield soldiers' hands swung like windmills, madly smacking into the king's face. Their attack speed was so fast that even assassins, famed for their agility, couldn't hope to match it. And their nearly bottomed-out health also instantly refilled amid this frenzied assault. The Kobold King was outright dumbfounded. Were these still the shield soldiers famed for their clumsiness? Fortunately, this berserk attack speed didn't last long. The lightning's damage soon exceeded their health cap, and a bolt of lightning fell, one-shotting them outright. Looking at those few shield soldiers struck into charcoal, the king touched its faintly loosened teeth and let out a long breath. It naturally assumed this must have been some kind of powerful near-death burst skill. A bunch of ants in the end. Full of smug satisfaction, it prepared to control the thundercloud to chase down my main force. And then, it was dumbstruck. Where are the people? It remembered I'd just been fighting its small fry, so how in the blink of an eye couldn't even a shadow be seen? It reflexively looked into the distance and saw, at the far end of the horizon, a group of blurry figures. A mass teleport scroll? The king snorted coldly. Used such a treasure and still doesn't dare run? Truly courting death. It immediately controlled the thundercloud, flying toward my direction at extreme speed. Just as the thundercloud was about to catch up to us, I led my troops around a bend, circling around the thundercloud and charging back toward it in the opposite direction. Courting your own death. The king's heart was utterly unruffled as it prepared to turn the thundercloud's direction. Then, it discovered the thundercloud couldn't catch up. It discovered in terror that the distance between it and me was shrinking at a visible to the naked eye pace. Damn it. Dared to let the thundercloud chase this far? Hack it to death for me. I'd originally only wanted to wait out its ultimate move, but I hadn't expected it to get so cocky and drag the thundercloud 100,000 miles away from itself. This was simply a heaven-sent opportunity. Strike while it's sick, take its life. Under the 200% movement speed boost, my great army surged before it like a tide. Under the 100% attack speed boost, the arrows loosed by 400 archers nearly connected into a single straight line of destruction. Unable to dodge, the king's health instantly plummeted. It panicked. Using high-tier magic beyond its tier, once interrupted, it would fall into an absolute weakness state with all attributes crashing 80%. But if it didn't interrupt, it would be shot to death right now by this ceaseless arrow volley. Choosing the lesser of two evils, it could only choose to interrupt the magic. However, it overestimated itself. The instant it interrupted the channeling, the weakness state descended, and its attributes crashed to rock bottom. The already terrifying arrows had their damage outright doubled, and its prized casting speed, under the weakness state, was slow as a snail. Before it could make any response, the dense arrow volley thoroughly emptied its last shred of health. It's dead just like that. Looking at the battle report prompt, I froze for a moment. Though the 100% attack speed boost was indeed terrifying, this Kobold King died far too cleanly. The Goblin King even had a second phase transformation. So how was it that when it came to this one, it was gone before it even swung the trident in its hand once? Could that really have been a staff? Still, dead was dead, and there was no use thinking about all this. Tallying the loot was the real business. I had to say this pack of kobolds was truly rich. Compared to them, the Goblin King was simply a pauper. Just those 10 Lord-class bosses alone dropped 23 orange items for me. Among them, for caught my attention the most. The first was the Shield of Destruction, which could stack the armor break effect on enemies, increasing damage by up to 50%. For shield soldiers whose damage was already a mere tickle, it didn't mean much. But for me, it was a divine artifact. Combined with my Thorn aura, when an enemy hacked me, the reflected damage would be increased by another 50%. Simply beautiful. The second was the Blade of Frenzy, warrior exclusive. It could double the duration of the Frenzy skill, and in the Frenzy state, the lower the health, the faster the attack speed. Combined with my Endurance aura, a low-health warrior could probably swing their arm until it smoked. The third was the Shadow Blade, an assassin's divine artifact. It enhanced stealth so it couldn't be seen through by conventional means, and increased the damage of the ambush strike threefold. Too bad my assassins didn't really make their living on stealth, but I'd let them use it for now. When it was phased out later, I could still sell it for a good price. The fourth was the Staff of Flame Burst, dropped by the Kobold Elder, with a full 3 skills. Namely Fire's Delight, low-tier fire magic level +1. Fire's Burst, low-tier fire magic gains an explosion effect, and Fire's Penetration, ignores 20% fire resistance. If this went to someone specialized in fire magic, they could simply play Art is an Explosion to the fullest. Only after handling these did I begin to check the main event of this haul, the Kobold King's drops. First was 3 precious skill points and 10 free attribute points. Then, there was that trident in its hand that it had never used. Punishment Steel Trident, Martial/Magic. Grade, Orange. Type, Weapon. Skills, Form Switch, Lights Punishment, Shattering Strike/Energy Overload. Form Switch. can switch between two forms: martial, plus 500 strength, plus 30% physical damage, and magic, plus 500 spirit, plus 30% magic damage. Light's punishment adds 30% holy light damage. Shattering strike. Martial form attacks have a 3% chance to ignore all of the target's defense. Energy overload. Magic form when casting spells increases spell crit damage by 20%. Appraisal. A failed piece crafted by a master smith imitating the weapon of a legendary inquisitor. It was my first time seeing a dual-form weapon. How was this a failed piece? Whether ignoring defense or increasing spell crit, these were absolutely T1 level attributes. If this went to a class that trained in both magic and martial arts, it would be simply heaven-defying. Next was a crystal pulsing with lightning light. Elemental heart, thunder. Grade, none. Type, special item. Effect, confuse with oneself, converting into an elemental bloodline. Casting requirement -20%, and gaining the ability Elemental Burst. Elemental Burst burns the bloodline to use magic beyond one's tier. Afterward, all attributes -80%. Appraisal, a heart left behind after an elemental sprite's death. Seeing this thing, I instantly understood. The reason the king could cast endless falling thunder beyond its tier was thanks to this. And because of it, it had removed the great dragon bloodline from within its body, which was why it had no second transformation. But this made it even stranger. There was obviously a great dragon backing the Kobold Kingdom, so why did it seek far and abandon the near, giving up the dragon bloodline to fuse with this thing? And recalling how it sat by and watched the elders die, this king, was it not some kind of dog traitor? Still, it was dead, so all these grudges and grievances no longer mattered. This elemental heart was a good thing, whether for a future thunder mage or as a high-grade material. Its value far exceeded that of orange gear. Finally, the king also dropped a breastplate and a horn. Ruler's breastplate. When health first drops below 50%, heals 20%. When below 10%, generates a 0.5-second invincibility shield. Dragon Fang Horn. When blown, emits a dragon's roar, reducing all attributes of surrounding enemies by 10% to 20%. The ruler's breastplate had decent stats, so I put it on directly. As for the Dragon Fang Horn, it also explained why it could emit dragon might despite having no great dragon bloodline. It was just that, looking at that pure white dragon fang, I fell into thought. Great dragons don't shed teeth, do they? So this tooth, it wouldn't have been knocked out by someone, would it? After the Kobold Kingdom fell, I issued my only order, loot. My farmer army, like a plague of locusts, turned the entire royal city upside down. Massive amounts of ore and gold coins were packed up, and even that wall condensed from giant boulders, I ordered torn down, planning to haul the materials back for my own use. This time's harvest could be called a bumper crop. On the resource side, aside from ordinary stone and iron ore, the count of source crystals broke into 3 digits for the first time. Even more to my delight, in the treasury I also found scarce resources like holy light stone, magic crystal, and sulfur, the kind only used to recruit angels and great dragons. On the blueprint side, it was even more exaggerated. A full 27 spirit field blueprints, plus matching spirit spring and auto-irrigation blueprints. My farm plan was only missing the seeds. More importantly, I got the giant boulder wall, psionic eye, upgrades watchtowers, can detect stealth, as well as the Lord's Castle blueprint. Looking at the gorgeous appearance and comfortable living environment on the Lord's Castle blueprint, my heart surged. After all, a lord without a castle, could that even be called a lord? In addition, I got another town return scroll. This kind of life-saving trump card. You might not use it, but you can't be without it. As the looting drew to a close, I felt a trace of regret. That master smith who could forge dragon scale gear, I hadn't found him. Perhaps he died in the battle, or perhaps he wasn't here at all. Just as I was patrolling around, checking whether anything had been missed, an assassin hurried over to report. Lord, beneath the throne, we've discovered a secret mine tunnel. Digging a mine tunnel inside the royal city? Wasn't that the same as opening a back door for enemies? Instinct told me there was something wrong with this mine tunnel. I immediately assembled my troops, leaving only a small number of archers outside on guard, while the rest entered the tunnel with me. The tunnel was riddled with traps, but before my 60 times constitution boosted life aura, these traps were like nothing. My great army just strode straight through, not losing so much as a single hair. The only strange thing was that the tunnel kept extending downward. This was already underground, and it went even lower? Was this trying to lead all the way to the Earth's core? Just as I was secretly worrying, word came from the assassin ahead. The mine tunnel had reached its end. Walking out of the mine tunnel, the scene before me made the corner of my mouth twitch. This was an even deeper layer of the underground world. Unlike the dimness of the upper layer, this place was lit up bright by countless flowing rivers of lava. Scalding magma slowly flowed through the channels, giving off a scorching red glow that bathed the entire world like a purgatory. I guessed wrong, but not entirely wrong. This wasn't the Earth's core, but there really was magma. Following along the lava riverbank, I soon saw that all the rivers and mine tunnels converged into an incomparably huge cavern. I'd thought this was just an ordinary passage, but the instant I stepped into the cavern, an icy system prompt abruptly rang out. You have stepped into a great dragon's territory. Affected by dragon might, all your attributes are reduced by 50%. My pupils shrank suddenly. This was the real dragon might. The instant the system prompt popped up, a fear originating from the depths of my bloodline seized my heart, freezing my entire body stiff on the spot in an instant. I took a deep breath, forcing down the fear that was nearly suffocating me, only to discover that my body was actually trembling slightly. This is the dragon might of an adult great dragon. That thin bit of dragon might from the kobolds earlier had led me to mistakenly think it was just a debuff. Only at this moment did I understand what true bloodline suppression was. I looked back at the soldiers behind me. Though they gripped their weapons for dear life, their trembling forms showed that their situation was no better than mine. In this state, never mind having attributes cut by 50%, even without it they couldn't have brought out their full strength. I forced myself to calm down and raised my head, gazing into the depths of the cavern. At the center of the cavern was a huge lava pool, the boiling magma like scalding water, bubbling and crackling. In the middle of the pool, on a narrow stone platform, a huge figure lay prostrate. It was a red dragon. It was like a prostrate small mountain, its dark red scales flickering with a metallic sheen, like a suit of armor forged from lava. By my estimate, its body was at least over 100 meters. I reflexively held my breath. Strangely, it seemed to be curled up quite uncomfortably, its huge body squeezed onto the tiny stone platform, like a burly man lying in a baby crib. Why did it insist on staying here? Guarding treasure? Didn't seem like it. This place was fully visible except for the magma. What puzzled me even more was its level. Such a huge body, it was absolutely an adult dragon, at least level 80 or above. Placing a level 80 adult red dragon in a newbie world, was this reasonable? This was already beyond what my myriad world's blessing could explain. This had simply rewritten the rules. Without hesitation, I pulled out the town return scroll. A gentleman does not stand beneath a dangerous wall. If it woke up and didn't like the look of me, flew over and swatted me dead with one claw, who would I go to reason with? Not only did I have to leave, once I got back I had to find a way to get a territory relocation scroll and get as far from this hellhole as possible. Being neighbors with an adult dragon, this kind of thrill was more than I could take. Just as I was preparing to tear open the scroll and flee, the archer beside me suddenly spoke. Lord, look at its wing. That dragon seems to be chained up. I was startled and looked carefully in the direction it pointed. Sure enough, at the base of the red dragon's wing, there was a dark red protrusion close in color to its scales. If you didn't look carefully, you'd think it was a scar. It was a huge chain, passing through its body, with the other end pressed beneath it, leading who knew where. It wasn't resting. It was a prisoner. My heartbeat instantly quickened, but this time not from fear, but from excitement. A free red dragon was a natural disaster. A chained red dragon was a breathing treasure trove. If the kobolds could trade with it, why couldn't I? My gaze toward the red dragon instantly turned from terror to burning heat. An adult red dragon. Ah, how many treasures must be hidden in its stomach? Even if I couldn't trade for treasures, if it casually tossed me a few shed dragon scales, those would be top-grade orange gear material. This deal was a sure profit, no loss. Of course, the premise was that I had to coax it first. All 5 colored dragons were lunatics, and red dragons were the most severely afflicted of them. I made thorough preparations, having my troops pull back, bringing the red dragon into the archer's range, so that if it turned hostile, I could at least buy time to tear open the scroll. Then, I called over a farmer mage, taught him the lines, and had him act as my mouthpiece. The mage took a deep breath, and with a fearless bearing, walked toward that lonely island amid the lava. As he approached, the slumbering red dragon's nostrils twitched twice. The next second, its double eyelids slowly opened, and a pair of huge vertical pupils comparable to searchlights fixed dead on the tiny mage. A low, majestic voice echoed through the cavern. I smell the scent of a kin servant. Facing the great dragon's gaze, the mage was under immense pressure, but he still, following my instructions, spoke respectfully. Honored Lord Red Dragon, we are adventurers traveling the underground world. To behold your majesty is an incomparable honor. Dealing with a red dragon, the flattery had to be laid on thick. In the eyes of these megalomaniacs, all your praise was merely stating facts. As for whether it was shameful, making money, well, there's nothing shameful about it. I couldn't beat it anyway, so if I didn't lower my posture a bit, was I supposed to hope it would acknowledge me as its dad? Incomparable honor? The red dragon's hoarse voice carried a trace of amusement. It slowly rose from the stone platform, dragging up a string of clanking chains. As it stood fully, I discovered to my horror that its body was even more massive than I'd imagined, its wingspan at least over 300 meters. This wasn't a damned adult dragon, it was a prime-age dragon of at least level 90. You ants, what qualifies you to stand before me? Oh no. Hearing this unfriendly declaration, I instantly realized things were bad, and immediately tore open the town return scroll in my hand. At the very instant the scroll tore open, the red dragon reared its neck, and a mouthful of scorching dragon's breath surged toward my troops. The speed at which the dragon's breath spread was beyond imagination. Even the archers 500 or 600 meters away were instantly covered. That terrifying temperature far exceeded all magic, and my soldiers, even with a 60 times constitution boost, were instantly vaporized in that dragon's breath. In the moment before the white light of the town return lit up, out of anger and unwillingness, I reflexively threw an investigate at the red dragon. Red dragon Torrens? Level. Attributes. Back in my territory, my expression was gloomy enough to drip water. This wave of dragon's breath had directly taken over 400 of my farmers, more than half the force dead, gear scattered all over the ground. However, when I saw the result of that investigate, the corner of my mouth curved into an icy smile. The myriad world's battlefields investigate could only see the information of monsters within level 20. Above level 20, it would only prompt the target's gap with you is too great. And I had seen its name, Torrens. This meant that this prime-age red dragon that looked so mighty and imposing was at most level 30. Damn it, got bluffed by this stupid dragon. Realization dawned on me. Those 2 chains didn't just lock away its freedom, they'd also severely weakened its strength. Truly worthy of being a red dragon, fallen to this state, and still so arrogant. I'd meant to cooperate in good faith, but it, without a word, nearly wiped out my whole force with one mouthful of dragon's breath, really giving it too much face. The more I thought, the angrier I got. You, a chained-up cripple, what qualifies you to be so pushy? This dragon, it had to be slaughtered. I'm not a vengeful person, so I immediately began preparing my revenge. Going to fight it directly definitely wouldn't work. I needed to raise my strength. The 2 fastest ways. One was upgrading auras, the other was completing the Path of Glory. I immediately claimed the reward for the 2nd ring quest, and the 3rd ring quest refreshed accordingly. Path of Glory. Quest 3. Slay 10 Monarch-class bosses of a level no lower than your own. 0 out of 10. Quest Reward. Special Building Trial Tower. Trial Tower. Job change troops can complete class advancement through trials and gain new skills. Note, there is a low probability of advancing into a hidden class. Slaying Monarch-class bosses would conveniently earn skill points to upgrade auras and complete the quest along the way. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And the appearance of the trial tower perfectly solved the problem of the farmer's subsequent growth, and there was even a chance to advance into a hidden class. Looking at this quest, a blazing fire ignited in my heart. Torrens, you just wait. I'll make you pay a price in blood for your arrogance.